Hello there. Welcome to Press X to Continue for December 2024. We're a couple days late recording this, and it's 2025 as we record this. So we're recapping the year with some of our favorite games that we personally played over the past year. And before we get to that, we got a couple just news things and a topic about sound design and Jason being very irreverent with the creators of games with how he treats the sound of them. Let's get to it. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to be taken to task for apparently how I play video games.
Rightfully so. You know, it needs to happen every now and then. How about you, Robbie? How you doing?
Doing great. Went back to school today for the first time in a while. Just finished the
Oh,
break.
it's like Billy Madison, right?
Yeah. Something like that.
Wow, school's already restarted by you?
Yeah.
My kids don't go back until Tuesday.
Sounds great.
Couple news stories here. First thing is longtime advocate, I'd say, Yoshida Shuhei, Shu, as they say, is leaving Sony. He was super big, especially during the PS3 area. You probably heard him back on the Beyond podcast occasionally, and he was like one of the main dudes. And then he slowly got reduced in role over the years, and it's not shocking he's leaving just because of the reductions over the years and how Sony's kind of de-emphasized personalities in the way they have.
Well, I'm while we're Sony and Nintendo primarily here, I'm not too familiar with like who did what. So is he similar to like Shigeru Miyamoto of Sony? I mean, was he involved in any of the game design, or was he just an executive?
He was good at green lighting games. Like he had that role, I think, in the PS3 era and early PS4, early to mid PS4 era of going through the studios, checking what they're doing, greenlighting stuff, guiding them on projects. And then after that, he was reduced to kind of being an indie advocate of working with indie developers. But during his main heyday, he was like the guy that would go studio to studio, constantly flying and approving games and greenlighting projects. And it was a very prolific time. Middle of the late PS3 and the PS4, like some of the best stuff PlayStation's done was from that era. Yeah.
Oh, I totally agree. I actually had kind of drifted away from Sony during the PlayStation 2 era. PlayStation 3 brought me back and brought me back hard.
Yeah, so he's going to be moving to a different company. He's not retiring. So it'll be interesting to see what he does next year. Or this year, I should say.
Did he say what company? I don't remember what that announcement.
No, he's probably waiting until he leaves Sony to share that. That's my guess.
Wonder if it's still going to be in gaming.
That's the impression I'm getting. Yeah. So we'll be curious. Yeah. I wonder what kind of stories he could tell after he leaves Sony, if any.
Speaking of stories, did either of you ever read Console Wars?
No, I did not.
Oh, I think I mentioned in the last episode, and I think Robbie's on the same page. I love Sony and Nintendo, but I was actually a Sega kid back in the day. So that was just such a wonderful story. I don't care that it clearly had some fictionalization and dramatization in there. It was just so much fun to read.
One of the streaming services has a documentary style version of the book that is similarly editorialized and dramatic, but I feel like effective in getting the idea of the book across pretty much as good as the book is.
Yes, and you're right, though. It's funny because they editorialize the already editorialized book because it takes
Right.
it remixes the notes from the book, but it was also excellent work watching. I enjoy a movie like that once in a while, kind of like the Tetris movie. I know how
that was so much fun.
I know how not accurate that was. I know nobody was smuggling Tetris out of the Russian, trying to get it away.
They did.
But it was
I don't know.
great.
It was still amazing how they got it out of Russia. I mean, it was
Yeah.
but not that. It wasn't as crazy.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had an NES growing up, and then we got a Genesis, and then we got N64. But I'm not sure I'd call myself a Sega kid. I'm not sure if I actively campaigned for the Genesis, or that's just what we ended up getting, kind of thing. I was always envious of the SNES at my friend's house. Like, what is that thing?
Yeah, actually, and that's as the Nintendo fan that I am now. That's actually my biggest shame is I never owned an original Super Nintendo myself.
Never. Yeah.
I did not get a Super Nintendo until my pretty much non-gaming, though even non-gamers had occasional games they played, but until my non-gaming wife and I got married, and she had a Super Nintendo with exactly two games that she ever played:
Super Mario World.
Super Mario World and Pack Attack, which is like
Pack
if
Attack. Okay.
it's Tetris, but there's Pac-Man and little ghosts, and when Pac-Man drops, he
Oh,
can eat
yeah.
the ghosts. I, as far as I know, it was released on Super Nintendo and not much else. So yeah, I totally missed the Super Nintendo. I had a Sega CD. I burned out my first Sega CD because I played it so much. Had to buy a second Sega CD. I had a Game Gear. I mean, I was all in for Sega.
Game Gear. Oh boy, that was an expensive console back. Could you play that one plugged in, or did you have to run through batteries?
You could buy a battery pack for it. Did not come with one, kind of like Microsoft controllers still.
Amazing that Microsoft controllers, you need to buy a battery pack if you want rechargeables. But could you play it just plugged into a wall?
If you bought the DC
Yeah.
the AC/DC adapter, yes.
I
Okay.
had that and the battery pack. The battery pack died like almost instantly. You could play
It
like
didn't come
25
with
minutes.
an AC/DC adapter though.
I thought it
I really
did.
don't. It
It
may
did.
have.
Okay.
Now, what I
Okay,
don't think
that's-
it came
that's
with
more-
was a power 12 volt.
Yeah. It's the portable console as long as you're hooked up to a wall.
Sonic Drift, baby, classic.
Oh, Sonic on Game Gear was just so great. I very much loved the Game Gear.
Is the Game Gear bigger or smaller than a Steam Deck?
Ooh.
Well, crap. How about this? By the
It's-
time we
it's
record our
thicker.
next episode,
It's thicker?
I'll get my Game Gear out, and then I'll have my daughter bring over her Steam Deck, and I'll compare the two.
I'd be curious, yeah, because that thing, just in memory, seemed huge.
I think it's like thicker this way, but in every other dimension, it's a little smaller, if memory
Okay.
serves.
And what's funny is with how big it is, how small the screen on it is.
Yeah.
I mean, in hindsight, going back to that is insane.
But it's a glorious color screen, right?
Oh, so I loved it so much. As a matter of fact, kind of
This was contemporary with the original Game Boy.
Yes and no. It came out, I don't know how many years after, but it came out a couple of years after the Game Boy, because the Game Boy was really early, a lot earlier than people realized. But essentially, yeah, it was contemporary, ran side by side. It predated like some of the other Game Boy contenders, like the Wonder Swan. That's the big one that I'm thinking. Oh, and then the Neo Geo Pocket. It predated both of those too.
Okay,
So yeah.
cool. Okay, next story.
Yeah.
I love the tangents, but next story.
Yeah.
Jason, you added this one. Pokemon TV is returning to you, and it's now going to be on YouTube. And I must say, my daughter and I watched one of the final episodes on the Pokemon TV app. It's like, oh, this is still up and running. And then, like, the next day, I was like, oh, this is now broken.
Yeah, it was hilarious that you caught it right as it was running out. And
Yeah.
Pokemon TV, the Pokemon TV app, it was phenomenal. Right, Robbie, do you Pokemon?
I do. I don't know much about Pokemon TV, so you're gonna have to fill me in on the. I'm a pretty recent Pokemon guy.
Oh,
Switch
okay.
era and on.
Oh, okay.
Which-
Yeah. Okay. So Pokemon TV was, it may have been on Android too. I think everybody here are Apple people. So it was an iOS app that literally was nothing but the different seasons of Pokemon streaming free of charge.
Complete, too, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean,
And no ads.
No ads, no monthly
was great.
charge. Yeah, and they YouTube was out when it came out. Obviously, it was Nintendo doing their own thing, and it was great. But then they took it offline, and now it is on YouTube. So I'm glad it's there. I'm glad you can get the content.
It's not fully. Is all the content on YouTube at this point, or are they
I
slowly
actually-
rolling it out?
I haven't checked. I wouldn't be surprised. We all know Nintendo. As much as I love Nintendo, when they go to something new, they trickle roll things out. So
I will say I'm very impressed with Nintendo Music, how quickly they've been adding. It feels like every week there's a new album that's dropping on Nintendo Music. That's been impressive to me.
this might surprise you. I'm not sure I'm ever going to open Pokemon Music.
Oh,
Or not
Nintendo
Pokemon,
Music.
Nintendo Music. Excuse
It's
me.
such a great, you put the 60-minute loop on for the Wii Shop channel as you're working. It's a great
That's the
time.
music I actually know.
Yeah, yeah. But my daughter, a little bit over 2, I showed her some of the first season of Pokemon, and she was enamored by the Pokemon. She's
I need you to be careful, Tim, because if you let your daughter watch the episode where Ash lets his Butterfree go, that's heartbreaking.
oh my
Okay,
God.
you're gonna cry. She's gonna see you ugly cry.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, she was enamored by the Pokemon. I think she may at one point be more into those at some point when she understands what she's saying.
Well,
More
look,
so.
again, I'm upset the Pokemon TV went away. I'm glad that they're at least bringing some of it to the YouTube, and I'm sure it'll reach more people. And Nintendo's going to get their ad revenue for it and everything. So it was done sheerly for monetary purposes. A little disappointed it's gone, but I'm still happy that it's here somehow.
For sure. And then finally, Sony is testing hand tracking for PlayStation VR 2, which is really interesting. This was at a recent developer event, to my knowledge, and it's in the SDK. They kind of snuck it in there. And at the same time, Apple's been in talks with Sony to sell the PSVR 2 Sense controllers. So at the same time that Sony is adding hand tracking, Apple is adding PlayStation controllers. Interesting. Yeah.
Robbie, you want to weigh in on that first? Because believe me, I got plenty to say.
I'm gonna just listen to you.
Okay. Yeah, actually, the wildest thing about that is you've got Sony who, you know, can't seem to support their own system. I am a big believer in Sony is continuing like they failed with the with the PS Vita more than the PSP. They failed with the PSVR. Now they're failing on real good support for the PSVR 2. You can't buy the Sense controller separately yet.
You cannot.
But then Apple walks in, Apple hasn't cared about gaming since the 80s, y'all. And now Apple is trying to partner with Sony to buy something that it just makes no kind of sense. But I'm happy for the VR group. I'm absolutely happy. But also, why do I want these controllers on Apple Vision Pro? It doesn't have any games.
Maybe it needs controllers for actual good games.
You already could have compared an MFI Bluetooth dual stick controller to do some kind of something.
Yeah, you can, but that's not the same.
Okay, but
right, we want VR controllers.
But the Vision Pro does have hand tracking already, and as somebody who has done it on the Quest 1, which we'll get into that in a minute for hand tracking, there are plenty of games that would have been right in the Apple kind of shallow arcade wheelhouse that they could have done with that.
Yeah, all the hand tracking game I've tried on Vision Pro suck. Like it just reminds me of why the Sense controllers, the PSVR 2 is so much better for gaming, because you want the haptic feedback, you want the more precision. Like there's synth riders for Apple Vision Pro. It's 1,000 times worse than it is on PSVR 2 just because there's no controllers. Like
I can totally
even if the tracking's great, the haptics in that game are really vital to knowing you're doing the right thing.
And honestly, thinking about it, I can totally buy that the lack of haptics is a huge difference.
Like if they had, I don't know, some haptic rings you could put on your, like that would solve, like you want some kind of like feedback.
And something.
Yeah.
I can totally get that. It's such a weird disconnect that you have such a good VR system with accessories that isn't getting support with a new headset that could be doing its own thing, but is just where they're reaching. It baffles me. It really does. I'm happy. I think it's going to be a win for everybody. It's just baffling how we got here.
Yeah, and maybe this is just Apple getting ready for the lower cost headset as well, if that's ever going to be a thing. That they'll.
I don't know. I don't think Apple is any more committed to games on Apple Vision Pro than they are on any of their other platforms, and they're not very committed to games anywhere.
Yeah, they need to make their own controller to show that commitment, I would think.
Okay, I've got to put the tangent in here because it's not a controller. What they really need to do is make a Apple TV game edition, and
For sure.
and have it ship with a controller. Have it, nothing, limit its app store, kind of like they create a special app store for it, like you have for the Apple Watch. That is nothing but games and streaming services.
Sure. Yeah.
They've got all the groundwork laid. They have, and it just blows my mind.
And their App Store policies still don't allow Sony to offer like cloud streaming from Sony servers or Xbox streaming from their servers. Like that.
I thought that changed in the past year and a half or so, but that there were some. Maybe I misunderstand which aspect of it
preventing them from doing it. I don't know what's.
It has to do. Okay, if I remember correctly,
in-app purchases, I think, right?
No,
Maybe?
Actually, I think what it has to do with is it came down to whether or not the games are individually licensed, rated, whatever, or available versus a storefront type situation. It became something like that. Like the Netflix games, for example, they're all in the Netflix App Store, or I'm sorry, in the App Store under Netflix, just free. Whereas you don't have a Netflix launcher that gives you games underneath it.
Right.
And because
I think part of it for Xbox is they want to be able to offer
a front end that streams
the DLC stuff too.
Well, it's not even about the DLC. Essentially, it's the difference between saying, they don't want Microsoft and Sony to release front ends on their systems. They want individual titles.
But that they, as Robbie said, they changed the rule for that, though, I believe. But no, they just taken them off.
My understanding was that Microsoft at least had some sort of hang up with why they were not going to do it, even though they could technically do it.
I think
now.
It's the DLC restriction that they can't offer purchases beyond the subscription.
So are there Game Pass games where you can get a Game Pass game and just play it with your $40 a month, whatever, but then you can buy additional content?
Yes. Totally.
Okay.
And that's I think Microsoft's holdup, which hopefully that stuff gets sorted.
This is one of the.
But yeah, and I really hope PSVR 2 does see more support from Sony. Like, it's hard to say because Sony's been so damn quiet, even about PS5 console games, that we don't really like. Are they not supporting it, or are they just not talking? Like, it's hard to say. My impression is the sale price over the holidays has been, the install base, I think, has grown quite a bit.
Yeah, they did drop the price of the headset, which moved a lot of units. I'm curious how many of those units are being used for PC VR setups now, since you can get the dongle, over the. I mean, I know Behemoth was on the what's hot list recently, which is a good sign. But that's the other thing I was going to say is with all the VR talk back and forth between Apple, it's also been a good month for VR with Behemoth VR and Alien
Rogue Incursion.
Yeah. Both of which are on your list. So
they are. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's get to one major topic of sound design / what are you doing, Jason? So, Jason, can you share a bit on how you listen to your games while playing and how you experience the great dialogue and music and soundscape that these game developers create for us?
Okay. I don't know when it started. Actually, and you can't even say that it's because I've gotten older, because I have very, very, very strong memories in high school of grinding through video games with headphones on, listening to something that isn't the video game. What it boils down to is I don't use the audio in my video games. I don't listen to the music. I don't listen to the sound effects. I don't listen to absolutely anything. Because
you could turn the music all the way down and just have the sound effects on if you want to, or the dialogue or whatever it is.
And in a lot of games, when they have sound options, I'll turn everything down even without putting on headphones. And I don't know what it is. I'm not interested. There's one game that is an exception to that for me right now, and that is Overwatch / Overwatch 2, because it's a competitive, and I actually need the sound cues for that game.
Yeah, some games like Returnal has 3D audio that tells you where the enemies are coming from, and if there's someone behind you, the sound helps you improve your likelihood you'll not die.
Man, I'm listening to podcasts, audiobooks, sometimes just music, though that's pretty low. It's very rare that I'm ever listening to just music. I'm not listening to what I'm doing. And part of it, I don't know if it's because I want to take in more at a time, I can get through multiple things. I really don't know what it is, but I and the other last hitch in the giddy up is, even though I don't have the audio on, I always make sure the characters are in like Japanese dialogue with subtitles.
Now, does this include like super cinematic things like Final Fantasy 16, and you'll not listen to these 20-minute cutscenes? Like, is that happening, or do you turn
It
it up for the cutscenes?
it varies. Sometimes, because I have the PlayStation Pulse headset, sometimes I'll have my Bone Induction Bluetooth on at the same time, and so yeah, I'll pause what I'm listening to get the sound effects at that time.
Okay.
Sometimes if it ends up being a short scene, no, I've just gone right through them and just read subtitles.
Oh my gosh. So, Jason, would getting a PlayStation Link audio device help you, where you can have the audio from the PlayStation or the Portal simultaneous with your phone? So you could kind of do your own mix of both the phone along with the game. Would that improve
Oh,
situations for you?
I was thinking about it, and I'm not sure. I think I might just be getting too old, and I say that because I'm not sure I can listen to dialogue in a podcast or
Uh huh.
audiobook and game dialogue and parse two different like actual dialogues and get them at the same time. So
Hmm.
if
Well, maybe
the
turning off the dialogue in the game, just doing the sound effects and music might be a better balance. I don't know. It
depending
seems
on
like
the game,
you're missing out on like half the game though. It feels like.
but also it's the nature of the games that I play. I mean, I already gave the exception of Overwatch, but other
Uh
than
huh.
that, I'm not really playing multiplayer or competitive games like that. A JRPG that you're grinding for 30 hours, I don't need to hear the combat sound to know that I won the fight.
Sure, but the 30-minute cutscene, you might want to enjoy that movie you're about to miss.
Especially something like Metal Gear Solid with 2 hour cutscenes.
Yes,
But
yes, absolutely.
yeah, no, I enjoy stories that allow me to approach the story when I'm ready to, so then I can read whatever story is going along and then go back to the story. I don't need the sound, the dialogue. And again, I invest. I have
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
headphones. I
Yeah.
don't really use them.
This is very disappointing. VR gaming would be a different scenario where you're not listening to a podcast while doing that, I hope.
Yeah, one and only exception, because VR. Anytime I VR, I basically consider it an escape away. I try not to. I have a Quest one. I mentioned, and like you could have it synced with your phone, so text messages and notifications pop up. I don't do any of that stuff, because when I go into VR, I want to disappear into VR. And it took me several months to get my family to understand that you don't mess with somebody in VR without finding a way to let them know first.
So they don't get punched in the head.
Forget about them getting punched in the head. I want to be able to enjoy and not worry about somebody sneaking up on me.
You're an alien and you get tapped in the shoulder. Ah! Uh, well, that makes me very happy that you're not trying to reduce your immersion by listening to an audiobook while playing a VR game, at the very least.
I'm sorry, there is one exception, though it's not quite an exception, and that is you can play Apple Music through the PlayStation 5 when
Hmm.
in Gran Turismo 7.
Which is lovely. I love that ability.
Yeah, that
And
is
Spotify as well. So you'd have a podcast from Spotify playing within Gran Turismo, which is cool.
yeah. I don't Spotify. I just have Apple Music.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, if you wanted a roundabout way of getting a podcast in the Gran Turismo, that'd be how you
Oh,
do it if you do not have a
fair.
PlayStation Link device or whatever.
Fair.
Um,
Which it's that is such a lovely experience. I mean, it's uh, VR, Gran Turismo, and just some music going is
hmm
it is about as close to you don't. And the more pieces you get,
It's
a
very
good
cathartic.
rig.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is so nice to just relax. And I told you before, I don't play as much in it as I would like, but I do better in Gran Turismo when I turn off most of the assists and stuff like that, where
Sure.
I'm just driving like I know how to drive, it is so
Yeah.
much better.
No, it's great. And in VR, it's like, it's unreal. Like I drove in the Prius, like, oh, this is like my car, except everything's backwards because it's a Japanese version. But the dashboard's all there. The one thing I would love for them to add is if I'm using Apple Music to update the cockpit like dashboard with the song track. That'd be so nifty if they integrated that, but they obviously did not take that leap.
I'm mildly surprised they didn't. I didn't even think to check that. But
Yeah, like the Tesla car, like the big screen there. Why don't they have the music playing? That'd be so cool.
You know, it also kind of going back though. It is amusing because Tim, don't you have a degree in music? And Robbie, don't you teach something very music related? So, you know, what do you two? I guess, what do you listen to when you listen to stuff then? Because like, I can't. I want something more than just the game.
So I have been, since I played so many Souls games over the past year, I actually do not turn the volume on for those, but that's exclusive to those games. I find that like I need to have the I gotta be so focused on my timing, and if I'm overthinking it, I'm not as successful. So I'll often put podcasts on or have a conversation with my wife. But I do leave the audio
while playing a Souls game.
Sometimes, but sometimes we have this agreement where I'm like when I walk into a fog, I'm just like, all right, don't talk to me.
I like that she understands that something important is happening.
I just think the grindy aspect of it is like, you know, I can't be like overthinking it too much. I need to be more relaxed to get my timing coordinated.
The Souls games are very the lack of a pause button gets really frustrating with some family situations. Like, I can't pause.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I assume that the Dark Souls 1 on Switch does pause when you press the home button, because I think that's a system thing, right?
Well,
yes.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
I assume it does. But yeah, I mean, that's... And I'm so used to that I'm actually annoyed that no other consoles work that way, like that the home button doesn't also just by default like kind of put the system into like a freeze state.
Yeah.
But, you know, I will say...
You will die that way, yeah.
No, totally. And... All of these games, I have to just jump in on this conversation. This is just adjacent to what you all are saying. But like sound effects in modern games are way too freaking loud. Like it's unbearably loud.
Huh.
And I find that I had to like, I had a friend over the summer who's responsible for really sparking my interest in the Souls games. And we were starting that Elden Ring DLC together. And I don't usually have this on, but we were like trying to, you know, whatever. It was like a special time. So I'm turning the volume up. And you know, I have like surround sound in the living room, and he's like, "Oh wow, this is like really fantastic," and we're enjoying it. And then the second that like something starts attacking me, overwhelming, booming, and shattering sounds just start erupting, like unbelievable. Like I had to turn the sound effects down to like 25% of their full volume, and I still thought they were kind of loud relative to all the ambient tones and stuff. So, this is more of a problem for me in other games, and it's a problem also.
So I've not noticed this at all. I'm more in headphones though. I don't know if speakers and surround sound setups.
I think it's just because I have like a subwoofer might be contributing to it. It's really a problem. It's a problem too because I can have the TV at like 1%, and my wife will tell me that if she's trying to sleep upstairs, that she can feel the whole house vibrating. And of course, because it's a remote system, she will turn down the TV remotely if she's annoyed. So
it sounds like you need headphones for your night.
Well, this is what I'm getting to. So I for the Xbox, I have one of those like SteelSeries headsets.
Sure.
I don't really like it, and I think to have it set up with both the Xbox and the PlayStation would be janky, and I have to do some fiddly stuff, maybe get a Bluetooth receiver. I'm thinking of two other possible alternatives, and of the three options.
With the PlayStation, you can wire up headphones directly to the DualSense controller. There's a port on there, and you just
does that really works?
Yeah.
Problem solved. I'll use my AirPods Max. Done.
There you go. Yeah, because you have the version that has audio out.
I've been thinking about buying the Sonos headset, but and then just because all it does is it just syncs to your soundbar of your TV.
Sure.
But I think if I can really just plug in a regular set of cans, because you cannot do that for an Xbox controller.
That's not there on Xbox.
No, but the one on the PlayStation, you will sometimes you might have to go into the menu and adjust, because I think by default it might start by putting like party chat to the controller headset, but you just might have to change something in the audio to put full game audio
You
there.
could not
Or-
use the microphone of a third-party headset though to chat, can you? Like I imagine the AirPods Pro microphone would not.
I don't know about the AirPods Pro.
Well,
but
there's this microphone in the
controller.
DualSense
Yeah, but
itself.
also I have an aftermarket, just a kind of cheap PC headphone with speaker that I plugged into the bottom, or with microphone, excuse me, that I plugged into the bottom, and that microphone has worked. So yes, I don't know about all the button functionality, because, for example, I have tried an old wired set of AirPods on my DualShock remote, or DualShock controller, and the mute button / the talk and volume buttons, none of that worked, but it did work, and it did pick up the audio, which is where you use the mute button on the controller and you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, I think I'm wrong. By the way, I think it was that the Xbox you can plug in something wired, but it's that the microphone. Yeah, it was that my microphone to any of my headsets I plugged in didn't. They have also like those SteelSeries things are weird with how they like integrate to the system too.
Because
like
PlayStation, I don't think has Bluetooth audio support. Switch does, I know. I'm not sure.
No,
what
and Xbox doesn't
does.
either. This shocked me when I like got the Xbox and then was reading about the PlayStation and everything else. It shocks me that Nintendo is the only console that works with Bluetooth headphones.
And I think part of it is if the latency issue, is that a thing where consoles are far away?
Okay, look, latency is a real issue, but that's absolutely not why that is the case.
Because I don't think you can do Bluetooth audio if you're using Switch controllers wirelessly. It only works if you have one wireless controller.
There's a limit. There's a limit, and that's actually kind of what I was getting down to. Is the number of Bluetooth chips and licenses per device? I really think that it all boils down to a cost and licensing issue. That is what stopped Sony and Microsoft, whereas Nintendo, quote, had to or chose to go that route because of the Bluetooth in use for their Joy-Cons. So they stuck with Bluetooth in general, and they may as well have had that license. It's kind of like how the Wii had a DVD drive, but they did not pay for the DVD video license.
Yes, right.
So you could not watch DVD movies without hacking your Wii. And then as soon as you hacked it, they played just fine.
Right, yeah. I will say, Robbie, I'm not sure if it's still on sale, but I got the PlayStation Pulse, or what's this thing called? Elite. Pulse Elite or something. The new one, whatever, with the PlayStation Link. And really solid. You have a little dongle that plugs into the PlayStation. That same dongle I'm using right now on the Mac. And so you have, and it works with the portal and all that as well. Sounds great. And then the cool thing is I can also have audio from my phone simultaneous to audio from the PlayStation. I can use like the microphone on here to take a phone call while I'm like playing a game, which is super handy. And that's been really nice.
Are they? They're like $130, right? Is that the deal?
Yep. Right now, they're normally 150, 160, I think normally.
But your description of it also perfectly explained or shows how it works with multiple things, because it uses Bluetooth to connect to your phone, but it uses a proprietary audio connection standard. That's why it's doing both of them at the same time. And while I love it, it just feels unnecessary and cumbersome and just really Sony. You couldn't.
It's very handy though, I must say. But yeah, very Sony.
How exactly does it do the phone?
What's that?
How exactly does it do the phone audio? I don't understand
just
what
Bluetooth.
Standard it's.
Just Bluetooth on the phone.
Okay.
So Bluetooth on the phone, PlayStation Link for the PlayStation and your computer and stuff.
Yeah, because PlayStation Link is its own audio standard or its own wireless standard or whatever. The other people would have to make stuff that works with that, but so instead they make a headphone with both Bluetooth and it's another weird Sony decision.
I mean, it's a cool Sony thing, but yeah, and it comes with this little you mount this on a wall, and this is like, if you don't have a cat that would kill your headphones, you can just charge it by hanging it up on this thing, which is nifty. So
I love
hangs
cats.
Hangs up like that, you know.
I love cats, but cats hate my hobbies. They chew on wires and everything like
that.
Yeah,
so I have to hide them. I got a lovely little $20 case for them, which works really nicely. Keep away from the cats. Anyways, that's my little plug for my latest little fun thing I got during the holidays.
And Robbie, which Steel series did you have? Because I had a Steel series. I think it was an Arctis 3 or something like that for the Switch that I actually quite enjoyed until I left it at a hotel.
I don't like the feel of them. Not that it matters. I don't like the look of them either. Like that green, that Xbox green.
Okay, yeah, mine was just it was either black or white. I don't remember. It was a standard color.
They're black, but they have like a lot of green accents on the inside, which is already too much for me. I wish I could tell you there's it actually was annoying to research because there's 50 million versions of this headset. I feel like it had. I'm looking at them online right now, and now I'm actually just can't remember if it was an Arctis Nova or a. No, that doesn't seem right. Steel. There's definitely I guess they're all Steel series technically. That's the brand, right?
Not. I thought that might be their line. I don't know.
It was not the cheapest one you could buy, but it was not the most expensive one either. It was one of the ones that was very heavily branded as this pretty much out of the box works with an Xbox, but it can work with other consoles. But it can't seamlessly switch between them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have an Arctis. I just don't know which Arctis I have because there's the Nova, and then there's a bunch of numbers and a string of characters at the end of each model number.
Well, maybe if I listened to audio more, I would feel the same as you. But like I said, I actually didn't have a problem with those Arctis that I had. I just had to stop. I just left them in a hotel with all my traveling. So.
Well, do the PlayStation headset, does the headset have any, is there anything unique that a developer can do when they make a game that takes advantage of that headset? Or, am I missing out? If it's mixed in, I assume it's mixed in, 5.1, and then
I
there's,
know the
stereo
3D
mix
audio
also.
sounds especially great in the headset, but I'm not sure if that's special to Sony or if it just...
Yeah, am I going to get that with a pair of AirPods plugged in?
I don't know. I've not tested that. It should work with any headphones, is what the initial PlayStation launch was.
Yeah, but is this just going to go to stereo if I plug in my own set of headphones?
I think it probably will go to stereo. I don't know for certain, but I will tell you, spatial audio will not work with VR and just standard Bluetooth headset. I think because
I would give it a shot, Robbie, and fire up Returnal and see if it works. That's the best test. Or Astrobot, I think, does pretty good. But fire up a game that you know what good 3D audio sounds like, and if you know what that. But yeah, Returnal is a good test case and see what it sounds like in there. I believe it should work with standard headphones, though.
But I will also say, this is one of those you kind of get what you pay for. I'm sure that the ones Tim is wearing, it'll be the same, but the Pulse headset that I have, if you've never used any of the Sony branded headsets like the Pulse or the Gold or whatever the ones were called for the PS4 and everything, they have an audio profile app that can download audio profile setups specific for certain games to balance and enhance the audio just straight out the gate.
Am I really about to potentially buy a third over-the-ear set of headphones for a third? Because I've used the AirPods with the Apple TV when I watch stuff alone at night and my wife is in bed.
I mean, I own 2 sets of AirPods Pro 2nd generation. One I got just because of the Vision Pro and the USB-C low latency. And then I ended up with both the Elite and the Explorer headphones. One that I just use with my Portal now. The other I use the PlayStation downstairs. So yeah, that's just what we do. We just buy way too many headphones. And I have the AirPods Max that I use.
Yeah, those Pulses are exactly the ones I'm wearing, except I got the black model, Robbie.
Oh, they make it in all black? That's ideal.
At least I think I do, actually. Let me look. Yep, it's black. I mean, that's what I'm wearing.
All right.
They're good. I do like them. They're comfortable. I did actually just recently for Christmas had to get some new pads for it because I wore them even though I don't do audio. This is where I wore them enough playing Overwatch that I had to replace the pads on them.
They look almost unrecognizable to me in all black. So wait, this is the black one is cheaper? Is this a different?
Possible. I don't know.
Oh, the Pulse 3D.
Is this? Yeah. Is this an entirely different set of headphones I just linked in there? Sorry, I'm giving you edit spots.
Nope. You're fine.
So the Pulse 3D was the prior one to the Pulse Elite.
Okay.
I really
so this
think
is not the same.
I really think I would spring for the Pulse Elite. I think it's much. I don't know. It's got some nice features. I think they probably sound a little bit better.
Okay, actually, it looks like Tim may be right. I think the Pulse 3D was just the original Pulse, and that's what came out during the lifetime of the PS4, but was also re-released for the PS5. Then they released the PlayStation 5 specific Pulse, which they call the Pulse 3D. So apparently,
And I think Robbie, the sale for the Pulse Elite, which is $20 off. It's normally $150. It's now $130. Ends in 3 hours and 23 minutes. So I believe that deal actually ends tonight at midnight.
So funny. All right. So I want
Along
the
with
PlayStation 5 Pulse 3D wireless headset. It doesn't say Elite in this
No.
link I sent
You want the
though.
Pulse Elite.
Yeah, there's a difference. The Pulse 3D and the Pulse Elite are different.
Oh, I see. These are okay. This does say 3D. All right, Pulse. Oh my goodness.
So we're doing some shopping.
We're just going to make you spend all the money.
Yeah,
Robbie.
and the PSVR 2 sale ends in 3 hours as well. If you want to pick one of those up,
Let me get a second one.
Oh,
yeah,
here
I
it
mean,
is.
I always tempted to get a backup, but I can't justify that, you know. But you gotta imagine when this Sense controllers go up for sale on Apple, they're gonna be like $75 each. You'd might as well just get a headset for an extra whatever.
I am curious what they're going to sell for. That's going to be a big question.
They're gonna be expensive. They're not gonna be. They'll be like $150 for a pair, I think. I really think they want because a DualSense regular is what $75 these days.
Yeah, I don't know. That's actually something we could even talk about at some point. Maybe not this show, but the pricing on controllers has gotten wild, especially if you compare the controller standalone versus the cost of full console bundles. Just
oh yeah.
Pricing is
It's
going
wild.
out the window.
Mm-hmm.
So, but also for the record, I'd like to point out, boy, we've gotten far afield from audio on me.
I mean, we got Robbie buying some new headphones, which
Which I'm sure he's grateful for.
Absolutely.
I don't think they're available on Amazon anymore. But I'm on the PlayStation Store now.
Oh no,
They were sold out for a bit on Amazon. Best Buy is where I got mine from. Yeah, it looks like they're sold out on Amazon. I would go with the Best Buy if
right.
you have one that is local,
Oh, yeah.
or I guess
There
they
they
ship
are.
and stuff. That's where I got my pair. They were sold out at the time when I was looking as well.
I'm gonna see if I can find them in black anywhere.
They do. It's just the white and black. It's mostly black, as you can see, but there's like the white top.
Tim, I'd like to talk to you about what the word mostly means as you're sitting here displaying something that the moment you turn your head shows more white than black.
I mean,
that's like you're saying it's
the-
mostly black because the inside is black.
well,
doesn't
the
work
inside
like
is
that.
black. There's a topper band that's white, but there's also an interior band that is black, along with but it is only this two-tone design.
All right, I got it in my cart.
Okay. I love
You're a terrible
spending
influence,
money.
both of you.
I mean, this will improve your gaming life considerably.
Yeah, we're here for you, Robbie.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll be able to listen to your podcast while listening to Dark Souls 2 at the same time. So you can have a podcast going alongside your grinding audio if you want.
And no one will hear anything except for me. Not a
Exactly.
soul.
Yeah.
No one will hear you scream. And Dark Souls 2 is what you're on to now, Robbie?
I was getting to. It was like I was getting too obsessed. I was starting to put unnecessary mental pressure on myself to finish all of the bosses before my break concluded, and I was like, nobody needs that. That's not a way to enjoy the final
No.
handful of. I've got maybe like 4 base game and then 5 maybe I don't know. I've got about like 8 bosses left. It's a lot of bosses relative to the others in the
is.
series. And some of the bosses, if I may, are not bringing me joy to redo because the runs in this game Some of them are real bad.
So Robbie, you have PS Plus, right?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
How
Currently.
What, Jason? Do you have any thoughts on what we call save scubbing, where you upload your save to the cloud and you download it after you fail?
Yes, that's called cheating.
I mean, it's a way of
Oh no,
to
that's
get
called
past
cheating,
the
Jim.
frustrating design
No.
of it. So
Okay,
on
especially
PlayStation, you have the ability to save, and then you can go and upload that save to the Plus. And if you fail, you can download said save and start back over right where you left off. It's great.
Yeah, but like, how is that saving me actually more time than a?
For some runs, absolutely. You're in and out within 60 seconds.
First
to
of
do
all,
that.
for a game that for any of the games, and the Souls-like games are in the
Mm-hmm.
category of games that death is a mechanic, you are literally cheating the purpose of the game. Mind you, it's a single-player game. Play how you want, but I'm going to judge you. You did just cheat.
I mean, you still die and you experience the learning from dying from that boss.
No.
You're speeding up
Not
the
at all.
learning process from that boss.
Games with death as a mechanic, excuse me, like most roguelites, and the Soulsborne games can fall into that category. The mechanic of death isn't just the learning, it's what you then have to spend, what you recovered, what you moved on with, that sort of situation. So 100%. And I don't know if he's quite right about how much time or how little time he thinks it takes. I don't know what kind of speedy internet and everything else Tim thinks he's going with there, but the upload download of the save files is a lot longer than that for me, and is definitely under the cheating category.
I don't know. I don't know if I would. It might be too much work, and I'm inclined to agree. I mean, I do think like I'm supposed to experience the feeling of like. Did we lose him?
Yeah, I don't know. It still says we're live. He'll probably have to edit this out. I figured.
Cool. Yeah, I'm inclined to feel like yes, that like okay, so I'm doing like the one right now where you've got to kill several knights before the boss appears, and you have to redo the knights every time. It's the Burnt Ivory King. That's what one of the ones I'm working on now. And the doing the knights is just I don't know. I'm just like okay, I get it. It's hard. What I've done is I moved it. I did transfer my save, but only for the purpose of putting it on my PS4 because I'm a disc guy now. I've got some discs for the holidays, so I wanted to start Final Fantasy 7. So I moved Dark Souls down here to my basement TV, which means I'm probably going to play it like 1/1000th the time. But I think I'm just going to let the rest of the game be a very slow burn and just kind of take my time with it. It is my last one in the series, and I eventually want to replay them all, but.
It's your last, as in, I'm sorry, did you play it 1, 3, 2?
Yeah.
Or oh, okay. One of those people.
One of those people.
I mean, I don't know. I don't remember much of the story from my time dipping into the series, so I don't know how much it matters playing the games in order. There's a part of my brain that just won't let me play a series in an order like that. I throw hands.
It's very clearly different. I mean, but also it's not as different as I was expecting based on everything everyone has to say about it, because it gets a lot of hate. But there's obviously like a small community of people who really like some things about it. I think it's a really good game. I was just getting like really addicted to it, and I don't know. It's weird. It's like it sits in this weird place between like Dark Souls 1 is the areas are really good. Dark Souls 3, the bosses are really good, and then 2. I don't feel like a lot, like, because most of the bosses up until this point I've just crushed. Like, it's very easy to level up in Dark Souls 2.
It's funny because they stop you from grinding in certain spots in that game after you do it too much.
Well, but what's funny about that is, because the enemies stop respawning after.
Yeah, they stop respawning after a certain number of kills.
Was
and you can do something to rekindle like the flame in that area to make them harder and whatnot.
Or to make them not stop respawning, yeah.
Is that only in Dark Souls 2 and or 3?
Yep.
Because I don't remember that in Dark
Just
Souls
2.
1. Just 2?
Just
Okay.
2.
Only 2.
I think that might have been one of the mechanics that people complained about. Because again,
they did, and it wasn't a problem when I was playing. It's like, oh, this is not as big of a deal as I thought it'd be. Like I can still grind when I need to.
Oh no, I think I'd be on Robbie's side. I assume Robbie's side. I have a problem when you limit my grinding. Grinding is like my fun time activity, is video game grinding. So when people take that away from me, I need to call a mob of pitchforks.
Oh, believe me, Elden Ring. I probably spent like 20 hours early game just grinding in this one area that was just gold. It was these little black thin dudes that I was just like sneaking up on and killing. I forget where exactly. It's been a while.
I like that. What did you? I assume you killed the very very old dragon in Elden Ring.
I believe so.
That's my like early game farming spot. But yeah, Dark Souls 2 is definitely weird and different. I think I'm just gonna kind of slow down on it and not have the feeling of urgency that I have had about the others in the series, because I've definitely like I'm all in on Final Fantasy 7 now. I'm like
yeah
locked into that.
Yeah, Dark Souls 3 is my final FromSoft game that I've not yet platinumed. And I kind of feel the same way, that it's like, this is the last one. I'm in no rush to finish this one.
So I don't remember. That means you did platinum Elden Ring too?
I did.
Again, I
Elden Ring was my very first FromSoft game. I tried Demon Souls, was like, no, this isn't for me. Then I got Elden Ring. It's like, oh, this is why people love this game.
Oh, see, and like I said, offline, I was all in from the moment Demon Souls came out. I was in love with it. If it weren't for the fact that I'm a serial dabbler in video games versus a completion, somebody who completes video games, I probably would have spent even more time in them. And I'm trying to get better about that.
But yeah, I went from Elden Ring, and then I went to Dark Souls and Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2. When I was sick with COVID, I knocked out Sekiro's Platinum. I probably spent like 5 hours on like one boss, and it was just like I had this moment of like, yes, I did it. It's like it's good moments there.
The Soulsborne games will give you that feeling more than anything else. I feel there are very few games that you feel as accomplished when you make accomplishments as you do with FromSoft games.
Yeah, and they give you all the tools, except for Sekiro. You got to get good, but they give you all the tools in all the other games to just grind it out, level yourself up. You can do it.
Yeah, but actually, I mean, I love the fact that going back to the days of the original Zelda, it's not just speedrunners breaking the game. The game is made that if you know what you're doing, you really can do it from the very beginning. I mean, in Bloodborne, you launch into that, or you spawn into that castle, and you have that, I don't remember what kind of demon they call it, but that very first demon you run into that kills you and sends you back to the Nexus, well, it's a while before you see that demon again, and you can finally kill him. But if you know what you're doing, you can kill him the first time you see him.
You can. Yep, for sure.
Actually, kind of like, and that's one of the things I like about Breath of the Wild, even though ultimately I've come down on the side of I did not care for Breath of the Wild, and so I'm not really going to jump into Tears of the Kingdom.
Breakable weapons.
Breakable weapons are so horrible, but I love that you can just mainline going to Ganondorf, basically. The openness of that game truly brought home open world.
Yeah. I went to what is I think perceived as the hardest of the 4 areas in the game first, which is having no idea because the game will let you. And like climbing stuff I had no business climbing, but just like getting up there through like just slamming like potions I had made mid climb.
Food. 100%. I actually spent a lot of time maxing out my climbing in that game so I could get up towers that I wasn't supposed to be able to get up yet because they had like corruption and stuff around them, and just trying to not quite sequence break, but do some weird stuff to get to places I had no right being.
All right, so we put that headphone topic on the last. That was like we touched on that last time. Then we put it. I have a proposed topic for a future time, which is graphical settings inside of games / when the limits of the hardware force developers to make choices and get creative with the compromises they make in the game. That's a big topic. That's not a very sexy
a big topic.
title.
Let's do that next month. That'll be good.
Okay. Thought I would throw that out there.
And
'Cause-
yeah, unified terminology would be helpful for developers as well. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, and I don't want to talk too much about that because it'll be better to talk about next month. But it's also taking a step away from the simplicity of what console gaming was, especially as old hats who grew up with much simpler times.
You turn it on and it works.
Yes.
Now you turn it on and read the description of the 4 or 5 different modes. Is this the one I want? You try it. No, that's not good. Oh, let's try this one. Oh, this is pretty good. And yeah.
Yep.
Anyways, let's get to our favorite games of 2024 that were released in 2024. And then we're gonna have a section of new to us games that we experienced for the first time this past year. So, Jason, kick it off for us.
I'll gladly kick it off, especially because I really didn't have a whole lot of like new 2024 games that I played. There were really only 2, and I kind of talked about
Me either. Yeah, it's wild. I was looking at my list, all my year in reviews from all the consoles. It's like I spent a lot of time in old games this year. Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is, the 2 games I spent any significant amount of time with, boy, did I have some, pick 2 really good games, because the 2 games I got lost in were both nominated for Game of the Year at the Video Game Awards show, and that is Helldivers 2 and Balatro. I want to talk about Balatro first. I already talked about it before. I'm still obsessed with it. Since the last time I talked about it, I beat yet another level of run on that with my preferred deck, so I'm basically on like new game plus for that run, something like that. I love it. It is high score chaser of the game. That was what I loved about it. Crazy Taxi, just games that it's all about just the score, and it's so much fun. And to be made by one person, and I've played it for so many hours, and I'm still unlocking things and seeing new things. And there's still decks I haven't unlocked and cards I haven't seen, and just it is a perfect game. It really is.
Yeah.
And again,
you're playing mainly on what platform?
I'm actually playing primarily on Apple Arcade, so iOS, just because.
Yeah, I hear it's like best there actually, because touchscreen is really natural for this game.
I would be curious to find out if the touchscreen is supported on Switch. It feels sadly like not.
I hear it is.
Is it? I would be tempted to buy it. Actually, more importantly, I would be tempted to buy it if Limited Run makes a physical copy of it, because I'm that guy, unlike the 2 of you. So I would be interested. I would buy that, or I guess buy it a first time, because I don't have to buy it for Apple Arcade. But I would definitely give money to have that physically, because it is an excellent game, and I want it as part of my collection. Just like I bought Overwatch 1 for Switch, even knowing that it was an empty case with no cartridge in there for me to put on my shelf.
I love it. Yeah, I spent probably an hour in this game and realized I gotta stop because this will be too addictive. But I did buy it for like $10 on the App Store for my iPhone.
And then it got added to Arcade.
No, at the same time, but I'm not a constant Arcade subscriber. I dip in and dip out, but I wanted to own this game.
See, I don't even. It's not that I keep my Apple Arcade subscription up. I just have the family something plan, and Apple Arcade is just one of the things that I get.
Yeah, we don't do that. We do the separate kind of things, paid by the year kind of thing for everything.
That's what we do also. I've got this game on my second home screen aspirationally. It has not clicked for me yet, but I know that it will once I put in the time, and I can't wait.
See, here's the problem is I like poker in general. Actually, specifically Texas Hold'em, though this isn't Texas Hold'em. I do like poker as a game, as a mechanism. So to see something so interestingly done with it, personally, I can't figure out if I want either the developer himself or somebody else to do the same thing with blackjack and really just tear that game off the rails. But excellent game. For one of the 2 games I was playing for 2024, I could have asked for better.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, Robbie, what's one of your games?
Are we round robining this?
Yeah, we're gonna rotate through, and we'll spend more time with you, obviously, since you have more to go through.
Well, I figured I could probably just say a couple of them, but I don't have that much to say about them all.
Sure. Yeah.
So I mean, does Elden Ring DLC count? This is a subject.
It's not a game, but
It's
you can
not a
mention
game,
it.
but I played it and it was good.
I mean,
So-
it's not a full game. It's added content to an already amazing game. Yes.
I'll go
The
for it.
only DLC, as far as I'm concerned, that counts is where it comes packaged and sold separate, standalone, and does not even require buying.
Yeah, like
original
the,
games to play.
like Infamous First Light is an example of that, where it's a standalone
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Stuff like
We
that.
have a board game like this in our house called Dominion, where you buy all these expansions to the game, but one of the expansions we own is itself a playable game without the original base game. So that's the,
Yeah, because otherwise, it can't be game of the year if it requires you to having invested like 100 hours to get to the point in the game where you can play this
Right.
expansion.
But it's worth noting, Robbie, that obviously you're not alone, because a lot of outlets literally had this same conversation for this same piece of content.
So I have not purchased this yet. I platinumed Elden Ring. Sell me on this DLC. Why do I want to go back in this?
First, I'll just
amazing
say,
world?
while I was talking about that, I realized we have 2 closets upstairs full of hardware DLC. Now that I've realized that our board gaming habits are this same idea here. I don't know what else to tell you. It's more Elden Ring. It's great. It's very good. They do a really great job handling. You have to be at least, I would say, a certain level to comfortably work your way around, but you can't really be too overpowered because you have to collect this different type of some different types of things to improve upon your strength and the strength of your spirit ashes. It
And
has
you
a
collect
couple,
those throughout the world. It's not all
throughout
within
the
this
world
area?
of the DLC. Yeah, I mean, it has
world
a
of the
couple
DLC, or are you going throughout the main world?
No, the whole DLC is pretty self-contained in a separate.
It is,
It's like
okay.
a separate map. Yeah. There's a couple of the most memorable and fun bosses in the game are in there. I mean, I would say like, I don't know how many like videos or
Yeah.
you've watched about it, but like there's one or
None.
2 fights.
Absolutely
that are-
zero.
Okay, so there's a couple of fights that I think are worth the price of admission alone. I didn't have as much fun with the weapon variety that I did. I'd kind of want to go back at some point and like do some of the hand stuff, like the martial arts stuff and the claws seemed fun, but in practice I didn't really. My build was not really super suited for it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just very scared to purchase this DLC and realize I've forgotten how to play this game.
It came back fairly quick for me. Some of the areas
Okay.
are cool. Some of the bosses are just that didn't give me a really hard time. Were still just very cool design. Like some of the most interesting designs, I think.
So collecting these things, it sounds like I can't do my thing of cheesing my way up by leveling up, because there's a limited number of these resources.
No, it doesn't really feel that different than the game. I mean, you're still collecting items, you're still leveling up. Your levels just don't have as much impact in this map as the items do.
Okay.
Already forgot what they're called.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
some very cool bosses in it. I had. Well, I would love for you to play it so we can talk about it. The final
Yes,
boss
that's
of
some
it
fun, yeah.
is sort of really like very difficult for a lot of
I've
people.
heard it's like the hardest boss they've done. Many would
There's
say.
it was like overwhelming and seemed impossible, but there is a build you can do for it that almost trivializes the situation.
Yeah.
So yes and no.
Yeah,
I know
Sekiro's
pe-
final boss is one that I nearly, just rage quit. That thing was just driving me insane. That
Yeah.
boss. But I persevered and I won.
I'm very proud of you. I haven't done that game yet. I played a little bit of it, and I was like, okay, this is I gotta come back to this later. This is clearly.
It's so good once you get a hang of it.
I know.
And at the
It
same
just-
time, it's still really frustrating and impossible.
I loved the grappling and the snappy, fast pace
Yeah.
of the combat, but I was not good. I was really having no idea.
Yeah, you
what I
gotta
was
get
doing.
hang of the parry. The parry is essential.
That's the thing, yeah, and that's a gameplay mechanic in Souls games that I pretty much ignore.
Yeah, likewise. I just dodge. I never.
I don't
And
parry.
they make you do it in Sekiro.
Yeah, I don't parry. I take it like a man.
Where's my roll?
Yes.
Uh,
Yep. Absolutely.
I'll also just real quick to get out of the way, I'll say I have not played too much of Metaphor other than the demo, but the demo is very, very good, and I'm looking
It's like a
forward to as a
6-hour
20.
demo, right?
I have 10 or 11 hours into it, and I'm about done. They give you, I think, 2 dungeons in the demo.
That's great. That's great.
So that's something I'm looking forward to pretty early in 2025. I'm hoping to get to that.
Yeah,
I want that on the Switch 2. I'm just saying that when the Switch 2 launch title, put Metaphor there. That's how I play Persona 5 Royal. I need that on a pure
I can't imagine
handheld.
it wouldn't run. It doesn't look. It's got an amazing art style, but it doesn't have the type of style of art that I imagine would demand more than what the Switch 2 is expected to have.
What's the combat in Metaphor? Is it traditional JRPG turn-based, or is it the more modern traditional active combat like Final Fantasy 16, 15?
It's traditional, but it's not. It feels like I actually am excited to talk later about SMT5 because I've played a couple of Persona games this year, and it's very much like Persona 5 is how I would describe it.
Well, then that's another reason that it should run on Switch. Is, I mean, even if it's looking nice, that nice looking backgrounds to play on top of are nowhere near.
Yeah, I
as
hear
hard.
the frame rate is improved on the PS5 Pro. So.
Are there frame
But
rate
I'm sure they
issues?
could run it on Switch too. I'm sure they could.
But it's definitely the kind of game that having played some Persona stuff on Switch, it's the kind of game that I would think would be much more fun handheld if I had the choice. But
yeah, that's how I did Persona 5 Royal. I could not imagine trying to do a 100-hour game. I mean,
talking to you guys more, especially Robbie, it's really bringing back how much I used to love my old school JRPGs. So I have a feeling at the tail end of my Switch lifespan, it's about to go back to a bunch of cozy JRPG cuddle time.
mm-hmm.
I can recommend Dragon Quest 3 if you really are into that kind of thing. I don't know that it is entirely for me. It's what I'm about maybe like 70% through the main story. But it's like got really cozy towns, great art style. I don't love it. But I find that there's some RPGs that I feel like I can get through without the game forcing me to. I think we talked about this last time with Unicorn Overlord. Like when a game either doesn't force me to learn its core mechanic, but I can still win, or when the learning curve of the core mechanic is like you get really far and then suddenly it's like you're expected to just understand it as deeply as it can be understood. Those are some minor turnoffs for me.
Yeah, and actually, I kind of reached that point. I think I've pretty much dropped Unicorn Overlord. It was entertaining, but there was just no kind of real challenge to it. It lost me by the end of it. It didn't engage me enough. So I totally understand what you mean by that, and I was really disappointed because boy, I was looking forward to a spiritual successor to the Ogre Battle franchise.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that one. But Dragon Quest, like for example, has a merchant. I'm sorry, not a merchant. A class system. A merchant is one of which that you can.
Yes, I do know Dragon Quest does have some very weird class options.
But like, I'm like getting through most of the game without changing. You're supposed to be able to change the class, but then you go back to level 1. But then that player or that character can have all of the spells or actions of their previous class in addition to all the ones you gain leveling them up as a new. So it's this way of making them very, very powerful. I just haven't found that I've needed to do it.
Yeah, it's probably going to be one of those. I don't know how many of the real old school JRPGs you played, but a lot of old school JRPGs, it's like you're fine until all of a sudden they decide that if you haven't spent your proper time grinding, you're going to regret it. Like you just reach a point where it's like, oh no, everything is now out leveling you by orders of magnitude.
So that and lots of backtracking are my 2 RPG turnoffs, and they happen fairly often.
And what's funny for me is the that reaching that the grind point. I have no problem with that because of just grinding is how I play games. We mentioned Pokemon earlier when we were talking about Pokemon TV. For anybody who's played enough Pokemon, to give you an idea, my starter is usually its final evolution before I reach the first gym. So
the first gym.
Yes, I will grind on level 2.
You can grind faster later on in the game when the enemies are getting more experience points.
if I have found that if I overgrind so hard at the beginning, I can basically play the rest of the game at a borderline natural pace and stay overgrinded.
Okay. Okay.
And
That
I
might
just
be
have
less
problems.
necessary. That may be less necessary with the modern Pokemon games. I understand it maybe with the original generations, but
I still did it with Sword and Shield.
okay. Okay. So Robbie, tell me about Mario Party.
Yeah,
This
which
is a
Mario
new one that
Party?
came out this year.
Yeah, the new one. I love Mario Party.
What's it
I
called?
know
What's
it.
this one?
Jamboree.
Okay, I've heard great things. I just don't have anyone to play with. No one in my
Exactly.
house would. It's the most disappointing thing in the world. Maybe my daughter in a couple of years will be up for this, but
Wasn't Jamboree the one that's just a collection of the Mario Party games, or is it a full like? Or was that one they released on 3DS? I don't remember. There was one that I thought was just like a collection of previous content.
Tim, are you
there
googling this? Because
was.
that's yes.
I'm looking up the series here.
There's 3 parties for the Switch. The first one was not well
There's
received,
Superstars. I think you're thinking of.
and I
Oh
thought it
yeah,
was
okay.
okay, but not great. Then the middle one I don't have, but then the new one, it's really a lot of fun. I think of the big group Mario games, I would always rather play Mario Party than Mario Kart, but that's just because I played so much Mario Kart in my life, and
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
and
Smash
I could.
Brothers.
Right, I'm not crazy that into to Smash Brothers
Okay.
either. But I'll always do Mario Party. Few people will play it with me though. But I have a friend at work who has been either he has been coming over to play it with my family, or I have
Uh
been
huh.
going over to play it with his family. He has like
I
lots
love
of younger
this.
sisters, and they all
This
live
is
at
great.
home, and
Yeah.
uh, and we're just like I just bring my Switch with it over, and all of them light up, and they're just like so excited to play Mario Party. And I'm like, this is such a delight. And his like parents sit down and join us. His dad is like has
Oh,
a
this is
long
lovely.
history in the family as being Peach, and then the parents are like going at each other about. But what's funny is they always refuse to play. There's pro rules in Jamboree that you can optionally turn on,
Okay.
which takes away all of that like arbitrary star earning
Like how the
at the end of the
last
game.
person can win, kind of thing.
Right, exactly. And I was like, let's try the pro rules, and they were like, no.
We want the chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I haven't played the Mario Party you're talking about. And kind of like you, it's like hearing people talk about Mario Party. It sounds like so many people have been down on Mario Party, like since Mario Party. There hasn't been a good Mario Party since Mario Party
Since
3.
three.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
and
N64 trilogy, the Sacred Trilogy.
and for the record, those people are fools. I have enjoyed the Mario Party series. They have not all been great. The biggest downfall for me in the Mario Party series has been the lack of content and lack of DLC. I'm really surprised the last couple of Mario Parties didn't even get a single DLC map. Nintendo has finally started to embrace DLC. They forgot that Mario Party exists.
I
Because I do
wish they did
enjoy.
the Mario Party just like hub game that you just continue to add on to it. Like have all the games in this, like have the Super Mario Party with everything in there.
Yeah.
Or attach something to like Nintendo Online, and every 3 months give a new map with some new mini games that can get into the rotation, something. uh and don't get me wrong, they haven't all been bangers. I don't remember which Mario Part. There's one Mario Party where like everybody travels in the same car around the map together. I think that was Mario Party 9 or 10. My family does enjoy them, but we actually probably would play the pro rules because my kids hate. Because I mean, I usually manage to be in first place before we even get to the end. But yeah, I managed to get. I've had so many lucky dice rolls that I'll get the star for moving around the board the most, or I'll get a bonus star for winning the most games. And they probably want to turn all that stuff off just to really make sure it's as fair as possible.
Yeah. No, Mario Party is awesome. And I heard great things about this one. I just wish I had more people to play with. That sounds like a fun little thing you guys are able to do. Do you have a favorite new game they added? Can you describe this game? Anything
Like
in
a mini
particular?
game.
Yeah, any new mini games in here?
I like them all. Most of them.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to choose. There's yeah, they're all delightful in their own small way.
Okay.
I personally, I think that the Mario Party franchise got reinvigorated starting with the Wii generation, because I do believe the motion controls are perfect for the Mario Party franchise. I'm a little disappointed because if I remember correctly, on the Switch, they I think they took out a lot of the motion type of stuff, didn't they? Or maybe it's an option. It's
Some
been a
of
while
it's there.
since I
There's like shaking and twisting and all sorts of funky stuff.
You wouldn't.
I'm
You'd
not
rather
sure how
do motion control rather than, get a sore and break through your skin trying to like rotate the joystick as fast as possible.
I don't know
Uh,
what pansy-handed people were complaining about that stuff, but I grew up in the
I
heydays.
I had blood happen on N64 trying to viciously win those matches. I will say.
I never had that issue. But yeah, actually, and again, I don't because I haven't played the Mario Party Robbie was mentioning, but one of the Mario parties had a game to give you an example of why I love it, where like each player was on a tricycle and you hold, I don't remember if it was the Joy-Con or the Wii remote sideways, and you're basically doing this gyrating maneuver like you're
Oh yeah.
pedaling the bike, and stuff like that is awesome. It is so much fun to do.
It's a lot of
That
fun.
yeah.
All right, I actually did think of two that are good, and one of them
Okay.
it's a 2-on-2, and you're supposed to you're holding a giant saw, and then different bizarre shaped stakes appear
Uh-huh.
underneath of your saw, and then you have to one person is controlling one character and another is controlling the other with both sides of the saw, and you're trying to cut the stake exactly 50% on both sides of the saw, but you don't but you can't really communicate very easily with each other. You're just kind of doing it based on vibes and trusting the other person's micro improvements are good by the timer running out. Then there's another one where you have like a 360 scene. You're at like a park and there's lots of stuff happening all around in the background, and you have to like take a photograph that like they show a photo and they're like take this exact photograph, and then you have to like zoom in and zoom out and turn up and down, and the closer pixel by pixel your recreation of that photo is to the original gives you more points.
That's
Oh,
cool.
that sounds really cool.
So I'm having a good time.
Nice. And there is
loosely,
online play, but it seems far less fun.
I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
loosely
So
related.
Jason. Mhm.
But before I jump off on that, loosely related, especially because you mentioned playing with your family and another family, Robbie. I'd like to make a really weird game recommendation.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Dokapon Kingdom?
Maybe not.
Okay, I first played it on Wii, and it recently, as in this past year, sometime in 2024, was re-released slash remade, or not even remade, really just a pretty straight port to the Switch. If you took your Mario Party style board, except it is a giant kingdom that you're traveling across with castles and cities that you're trying to fight monsters and take over the town, but add in some RPG mechanics because you have a class, you can be a mage, you can be a thief, but it's a multiplayer game. Everybody is taking turns. It's a little bit of life built in. You're trying to get the most money and by liberating towns and fighting monsters. Part RPG, part random board game, up to 4 players. And when it was re-released on Switch, they put online play as well. Highly, highly, highly recommend this hidden gem of a game.
This seems really
Dokapon
fun.
Kingdom Connect.
Yes, yes.
It's currently on sale for $17.49, down for $50. It ends in one day.
Physical or digital, or is that just digital?
Digital. I just
Okay.
looked it up on the eShop.
This
Yeah,
is on the Switch
I-
store.
Yes.
Yeah, on the eShop here.
I'm telling you right now, jump on it.
Part of the holiday sale. It's 65% off right now.
This might surprise you. I'm a physical family. My daughter got it a physical copy for Christmas.
This is a really random poll. That's a good one.
It's one of my favorite ones. I have a deep bench of obscure games to pull out as references.
Very cool.
Spending a lot of money tonight.
I know. This is an expensive podcast here. So, Jason, tell me about Helldivers 2. I purchased this. I have not yet booted it up yet.
Okay, it is my only other game of the year, released this year that was, that I put serious time into and would consider a game of the year, which obviously a lot of people agreed with me. Sadly, it did not win. Here's what I'm going to tell you about Helldivers 2. It holds a different / almost special place for me because this is going to sound really weird, but I did my time in the military as an infantryman. I've been to war, I've been to combat, and nothing captures the vibe and the camaraderie of being a soldier like the Helldivers 2 community did, especially at launch.
Hmm.
It is the jokes, while being crass or mean, were also all from a place of cohesion and caring. It's hard to explain. Um, I absolutely love the community of this game. The game itself was great and phenomenal, but the community and the just full in nature, and then the way they were doing, the outreach for the community and new missions and missions that they were talking about, and the public face of everything. When a not even DLC but an update would come out, uh, and it was okay, we have to kill 1 million robots on this planet, and you have a week to do that, and if the entire player base did not kill 1 million robots on that planet, we lost the planet to the robots. And so the map got updated, and then the community rallied together, and everybody jumping in was doing all of their missions on that planet, because god dang it, we were taking that planet back.
Hmm.
I mean, and
That's cool.
first of all, if you ever watch Starship Troopers, it's the same kind of energy as Starship Troopers as well. It just, holy crap, for a $40 game, this was phenomenal.
Have you checked out the new content they just added
Uh,
recently?
no, because I'm one of those people who believe you only have enough time for one live game in your life at a
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And while I definitely enjoyed Helldivers 2, I had accidentally gotten sucked back into Overwatch. I'm trying to wean myself off of that and, go back to the rest of the wider gaming world.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't checked out any of the newer content, but I'm glad that I put my $40 down, even for having dropped off a lot of the game.
Cool. Yeah. I'm excited to check it out at some point once I find some time for that one because I bought it at
100%.
the $32 price point and very excited to try it out.
Even though you got to save your whole $8 at a 20% off, it would have been worth it at $40. Anybody listening to this, if it's not on sale, buy the game. Buy the
For
game.
sure.
Robbie, add it to your cart if you don't have it. It's just one of those nights for you.
I'm sure Rebirth may take a couple hours to get through.
Well, and that's the other thing about Helldivers 2 that's great. It is a great drop in, drop out game.
You,
Is you can you
uh,
can get into your pod, and if you don't have a lot of time, you can drop in on somebody else's ongoing mission and help support them. Or you can just go by yourself and let people jump in and help you on your mission, or play completely solo.
how
Uh,
long does mission take from start to
it
finish?
it varies by the mission, because uh, first of all, there are so many different types of missions, but in addition to that, you have to. Some people have learned how to game some certain things. Like there will be missions about destroying certain communication towers. But if you split up your party, when you destroy a communication tower, the next group can immediately be calling in your exfil
Hmm.
and everything to reduce that time. And you just got to hopefully get to the rest of your team at the same time. So it varies based off of the coordination, cohesion, and experience of the players, but it is easy to drop in and do a 10 to 15-minute full operation.
Cool. Um, I want to mention one of two games on my list. There could be three, but let me add. Zelda was also, I think, worth mentioning. But yeah, Alien Rogue Incursion is my first game. This is a VR game released for PSVR 2 and Steam. It's coming to Quest at some point in 2025. I finished this game a couple days ago. What a ride. Beautifully looking game. Very tense game. You play this character who's crash landed on a planet. This planet has had aliens overrun it, and there's been some nefarious things at work. It is loosely connected to Alien Isolation. Amanda Ripley is involved at one point. Um, but they nailed the tone and atmosphere of being in the alien world. It's more aliens than Alien, which is good in VR because I'm not sure if I could last that long with something as horrific and intense as an Alien game. But it was very tense and suspenseful still, but it was more an action vibe, which was very much appreciated. Some wild moments of just like One moment really caught me was I reloaded from a save, and an
Cheater.
alien spawned behind me without me knowing, and I lost my stuff pretty hilariously if you were in the room with me. But really cool story. This is a part one of two parts, I believe, is what it'll end up being. I really liked where part one ended. Very satisfying conclusion. A really fun fight at the end of this game. Yeah, really cool characters. The reloading mechanic, like you're manually reloading your stuff in VR. And sometimes I hate that, but I thought the way they did this was really good. Really well implemented with all that. Yeah, just really solid alien gaming, virtual reality, PSVR 2. Yeah,
Okay,
Jason, you should get this right away.
It and Behemoth are actually the two games on my short list right now for
Yeah.
VR that I want to pick up. That having been said, I actually, having recently upgraded to premium, found out there's like some 12 PSVR 2 games on.
Yeah, Synapse, Jason. Play
I do
Synapse right away.
I kind of want to check all those out first before I buy some more. But I am, first of all, stupid question is, I don't recall, is Rogue Incursion exclusively VR or can it be played flat like the Resident Evil?
Exclusively VR.
Do you think it can, and I'm just curious because again, for the base or user base and everything in sales, do you think it could be transferred to a flat screen for play?
Maybe. I don't think they will though.
I understand.
This is by Survios, the guy. This is by Survios, and they're a very VR centric developer.
Are they? Did he freeze for you, Robbie?
They've done a lot of other kind of big IP type stuff in VR.
Okay. Well, yeah, I am interested in it. It amuses me that you played this game. I feel like you played this game because you are an Alien fan, because I also know you are not a general horror fan. So it is amusing to have you played through a game like this.
Yeah, I did play the Resident Evil games in VR, but those were... Oh man, I'm not a horror fan, as you said, but those are riveting experiences. But yeah, I'm a huge Alien fan, and they did some really cool things with the tools and some puzzles throughout it as well. Like you're like hacking these like powered boxes to open like the save room, and like you got to be mindful that an alien's not going to come up upon you when you're trying to solve this puzzle. Thankfully, there's good audio cues. So you're not totally caught off unawares. You're like, okay, let me focus on the aliens now. Now I can get back to the puzzle here. Yeah, and just really, really riveting game. Really fun story.
Did you platinum?
No, and I don't think I will, because there's an insane difficulty trophy platinum, and I don't think I have it in me for that difficulty trophy, sadly, unless they change the difficulty in any way to
Is
make
that
it less
the
crazy.
Is that the defining line for you on going for platinums? Is whether or not they make you play on hard mode?
I mean, it depends on the game. I mean, some games I can play on hard mode. I don't think this game I would. I've seen what this insane mode is, and it seems insane. Like, it seems a step above where it should be.
Appropriately named insane mode.
Yeah, like I think to be insane mode currently, you have to like cheese your way through it and find ways to cheese it. And
how many hours?
I'd say 7 hours maybe. And I was playing on easy mode because I was dying a lot, so I put it down on easy. And even on easy, I died a few times, I would say.
Visually, how did the game look like in gameplay? I mean, does it? Because sadly, as much as I like VR, we can all admit that VR games tend to be lower res, lower texture.
I thought it looked great. I really did. Both inside and outside environments, I thought it looked great. Some reviewers had some things they didn't like about the visuals, but I thought it looked just amazing. Like, I really did. It felt like I was in that world, and it wasn't like it didn't take me out of the world like, oh, this is some video game version of the Alien world. It felt like I was there. Yeah. And you get to experience some things that like you really want to experience the alien world. Like,
Are you
I
going
don't
to
want
tell
to
me I'm going to
spoil
get the power?
things.
Look, you're going to have to possibly spoil one thing. Do I get to
Mhm.
control one of those Ripley power suits like she does in the first movie that's supposed to be a
You
forklifter? But
don't, but you do. You have some alien encounters that are very intense. I will say that. Yeah, if you want spoiled after we stop recording, I can fill
oh
you
yeah,
in
yeah,
some
no,
of the
no.
things
I want to
because there's
respect
some.
spoilers, but I just had to
Yeah,
ask because I'm sorry. That would be so awesome to be able to have one of those.
yeah, no, that would be. There is. So you have a little flame torch thing to like unseal doors that were welded shut. Evidently, there's a trophy for this. I did not do this, but you can like spray the flame at an alien and get a trophy for it.
I love
Uh,
creative trophies like that. Creative
there's some
trophies.
fun ones like throw the gun in the air and catch it and shoot the aliens. A trophy, I think. Like there's some the trophy list I saw was like there are some very creative trophies in here that.
Okay, that one also sounded really interesting. Like I love trophies like that versus uh, stupid trophies that either insane difficulties or, God forbid, if you put a multiplayer trophy in your game, I may not even play it.
Yeah, there's some PS3 trophies that you just can't get platinum anymore because the servers are gone.
Yeah,
Yep, totally. But yeah, really impressed with this game. I'm so happy it's here, and I'm so happy it turned out to be a really great game. And I can't wait for part two. Hopefully, in a year or two, that'll be out. Very
and
excited
how
for
much
that.
was it?
It's $40.
Another $40 game.
Yeah, no, and great time. I think, play through this again, and I think now, yeah, as you learn like the layout of the map, I think this game will become simpler to get through. Like I spent some time like just where do I go now? Because you have a map in a little like tablet thing, but trying to look at the map while fending off aliens, like it's so the more you play this, the more I think you'll learn the map and can I might be able to do some harder difficulties as I play it more and more. So, but yeah, my current I then moved on to Behemoth, which is my current VR game I'm diving into, which I'll talk about later. Yeah. So, I think Astrobot should be a discussion now. That is one of the other games on my list, and it's on your list as well, Robbie.
Yeah, I mean that game is the only game in recent memory that makes me because like when you talk about nostalgia comes up a lot if you've
Mm-hmm.
as a topic if you've been playing games since you were a kid, and games change a lot stylistically and graphically over the time. So there's sometimes you go back and you play old games and sometimes they live up, sometimes they don't. And I think a lot of times when people are feeling nostalgic, they want to like capture more than just like what a game felt like to play in their memory more than they actually want to like deal with the hardship of the reality of no saves or
Yeah, old games are hard and
Yeah,
unforgiving.
right,
they
right.
really are.
They really are, and sometimes I'm just not down with that. But Astrobot is a game that captures that feeling of like, it made me feel closer to unboxing the Sega Genesis in the second grade Christmas morning than like anything I've played in recent memory. Um, just like a joyful, simple platformer that's just having fun. I don't know. I had a great time with it. I wish it was longer, but I know there's also I could solve that problem by just like collecting more stuff in the
Have
game.
you gotten the platinum yet?
No,
You need
this
to
is
get
like
the
a thing.
platinum, Robbie. Yes,
I
there's
know
more
I've
to be
got
had
a.
in this game. Yes.
I know. There's more. Well, and the cool thing is like now that I've kind of like gotten through my first run of it, my son really loves watching me play it, and so it's kind of like a
My
thing he
my
asks
daughter
to
does
do.
too. She's two, and I've showed her like the overworld at times, where we'll just run around and play with the bots, and she just like she loves it. And she'll point out when she sees the Astrobot character on my phone. Occasionally, it'll like show up in the timeline, like there's the Astro. She's like pointing at it.
Yeah,
It's like so. It
he
definitely. I think kids like this IP as well.
he's genuinely helpful at finding the bots too. Like he'll see them somewhere that I don't, and
Yeah.
call them out.
Did you play the holiday level yet?
Yeah, it's fun. It's real fun.
It's so good, right? So they released this holiday free DLC level. It uses all the power ups in this one level, and it's just this big mega level, which is super fun to get through.
Yeah, it's a real good time.
But yeah, this game exudes joy. Like when I first got back into gaming and got a Wii U and a 3DS as my entrance back after being gone for a decade. First game I booted up was Mario, Mario U or whatever, Super Mario U, and I just had this huge smile on my face the whole time. I was like, "Oh, this is why people love Nintendo. This is like this game's just exuding joy." And I had that same feeling with Astrobot of just having a huge smile on my face of, this is just pure joy bottled up in a video game that every moment I'm just smiling and cackling. Like, just like, it's so delightful. So delightful. It's like, if you're sad, just boot up Astrobot. It'll put a smile on your face. It really will. Yeah. Oh, man. Jason, it's a sin you have not played this game. I'm not
That's
sure
what I
if
was
it's in
gonna
your
say.
collection yet.
It's not yet in my collection, but how about this? I'm not promising when I will get to it, but I will make one commitment to you.
Mm-hmm.
If they right their wrong and release this or make this create an update to make this playable in VR, I promise to put it at the front of my priority list.
I don't see it happening. I think
well,
the VR game was designed for VR, and this one was not designed for VR.
Well, I
Sadly.
feel like that is their failure because, I mean, honestly, Astrobot should have become their VR mascot, and to have abandoned that VR that it started on was just almost criminal.
It's a sad thing. Yeah.
I don't know much about the headset other than what I've learned from y'all. Can you play any game in the headset? Just like on a flat TV kind
Yes.
Yeah. It's not a VR game at that point, though.
But you can, kind of like how on the Apple Vision Pro, you can set a display and change its size. You can kind of do the same thing on the PSVR.
Yep, you can.
When you're playing a flat game, you can just choose to make this, and it actually is great. I'm not gonna lie to you. I keep making references to it, but playing Overwatch 2 in the PSVR headset, when you can make the screen huge, it almost feels unfair, like in a competitive advantage playing a first-person shooter when you can make the screen so giant and still playing it with good resolution.
Yeah, and there's a new app for Apple Vision Pro called Portal, and they just released an update that has this fully immersive mode, and it has this curved screen in front of you, and it is glorious, Jason. It's better than PSVR 2. Like, it looks amazing. They figured out the streaming quality and all that. There's like 4K upscaling with this app that does it in the headset, and it's just a glorious time. Like, it's seriously impressive, this mode. So just one more reason to add that to your list of one day getting that thing.
I honestly, the only thing that has stopped me from having an Apple Vision Pro already is the price tag, and just
it's a little expensive, yeah.
As much as I want it, it just hasn't been able to prioritize its way up that list yet.
Yeah, but yeah, that app is incredible. I didn't think they could do it because the Wi-Fi chips on the Apple Vision Pro not being good enough or whatever, but they figured it out. It's a solid app. Anyways, yeah, you can't play any game in the headset, but Astrobot VR is something else where you're able to look around that world and you're kind of in there versus
the first one was so joyful for that, moving your head around to find secrets and stuff.
And your controller being in the game that you're moving it, and it's a part of the game, and you can hit your head against things in the environment. Like there's a wall, you like bang your head through the wall, and that's like a part of the game, which is delightful. Yeah. But Jason, you need to rectify this. It's a pure joyous game that your whole family would enjoy, I think.
I'll get there sooner or later, but I will only prioritize it if they fix their wrongs.
Okay. Persona 3, Robbie. Reload, I presume?
Yeah, well, I think we'll talk about it in a minute. I mean, I kind of did I haven't finished Persona 4, but I've done 3, 4, and 5 this year, starting with 5.
That's a lot of Persona in 1 year. 3, 4, and 5?
Well, I've only done a little bit of 4.
Okay.
I
picked up
5
4 Golden on Switch, yeah.
Yeah, and I need to replay 5. There's a lot of stuff I didn't do. I have really mixed. This is the series that I have the most mixed feelings about. Like I've for the amount of time I spent playing them this year, you would think I really like them, but I have some hang-ups with the series. but not enough to keep me from the tasty and crispy turn-based system of combat that's in 5, and that 3 subtly iterates on and improves upon in some minor ways, but that made them both really 2 games that I enjoyed tearing my way through. I think Persona games are like, the setting is a turnoff, and they're way too chatty for my tastes. But
you're saying you don't relate to being in high school at this point in your life?
yeah, I think like I don't actually. It's not even really just the setting. It's just the kinds of the things that like the characters say and do and get involved in are like just like not relatable to me.
Sure.
At times, but I think like I don't know that there is a better turn-based combat interface in a JRPG that I have. I mean, I haven't, certainly I'm not a connoisseur, but like the speed at which you get through the menus and the style of the interface in every menu. I mean, I just think like it's at times, in my opinion, style over substance, but I'm here for it. Like, give me all style. And it has that kind of like Pokemon feeling of like you're collecting things that are monsters, but you're sort of like leveling them up, and of course you can fuse them. And I think it's really a very, very cool game. I really like these like A-B kind of loops that are in some RPGs where like you're doing sort of like time management, social stuff, like Fire Emblem Three Houses was like this, where you're like socializing and like managing these little like units of time, and then you're doing a battle, and then you're sort of back and forth between the two. I like that in concept more than I necessarily liked or related to the story, but it's cool. It was a real good hang. I also love that like so many of these games are like steampunk or fantasy settings. It's just kind of cool to chill at like ramen shops around Tokyo with your buds. And
I'm
sorry, I just wanted to say too
Persona. Oh yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little late here. The grinding too, which Jason, maybe you will not appreciate, but I like how they made all these little quality of life features. Like when you're grinding in Persona 5, you can, and in 3, I forget how they handled this in 3, but like you can just sort of like run into the enemies, and then if you're high enough level, you just like immediately kill them and take the experience.
I love this. It's great.
I actually be okay. I think I'm okay with that. It's one step further than for example, Final Fantasy 12. Have either of you played Final Fantasy 12?
I love that game. I unfortunately have not finished it though.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 12 allows you to set up all sorts of autoplay rules and conditions. You know, like terms and conditions apply is like the tagline for Final Fantasy 12. And all of your characters will play the game by themselves, but you have to kind of set everything up, and you're actually unlocking all sorts of combos for rules and condition modifiers and everything like that you can equip to your characters and stuff. So I'm okay with games auto playing as long as you have to first do some kind of work to get there in the first place, because you said you have to be a high enough level, so you have to grind to be a high enough level above everything in the first place for it to automatically handle it for you, right?
Yeah, I agree, and it's different but similar. But what I like about that is that it's like, Tim, I think have you played 12 before?
No, we're gonna say at the very end of this podcast, honorable mentions. Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, those were the very first 2 Final Fantasy games I've ever played in my entire life.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I love them both, I should say.
Well, since you're also in the habit, which we'll get to, I guess, in a little bit, since you're in the habit of replaying a lot of older stuff these days, I mean, I think you'll have a really great time with some of the older ones.
For sure.
I absolutely do recommend 12, though. It's sort of like just writing, you're kind of just like doing a bunch of if-then statements. I mean, it's like using writing a script or something. You know, you program your characters. I really like that. A lot of games are rethinking that grinding part, because I like that. I liked Persona 5. Of course, you asked me about Persona 3, which I just think is a little bit just improves upon a lot of the quality of life turn-based stuff in 5.
Yeah, I'm worried about going back to Persona 4 Golden after having played 5.
That's like, why I have not been able to get through it very quickly. It's not.
Yeah,
fun
I'm so worried about that. It's like, am I just going to give up right away because like all the quality of life stuff isn't there?
Because what I think is cool about 5 and 3 is just the interface in the combat. Like I think it
Yeah.
makes taking turns not feel like taking turns. Like you can fly through those menus, and that plus when you like learn the elemental weaknesses of the things you're fighting, just really like the feeling you get of just like blitzing through is really kind of satisfying. Not to mention how
Yeah.
good everything looks when you're doing it.
Sure.
Okay, Robbie, you've said something twice now that either you're misspeaking or I'm not understanding how numbers work. Because twice now you've said that 3 either took or improved upon something in the combat from
They did a
5.
remake.
3 Reload
Okay, so
came out this
so
year.
I guess that was going to be my question. They did actually change some of the gameplay. They didn't just pretty up
It's a
the game.
completely the
Yeah.
game is completely remade over. It's not a remaster. It's like
Yeah, it's a
remade
remake,
from the
yeah.
ground up.
I see. I did not realize that. Okay, because
I'm thinking they'll do that for 4 at some point too, is my guess.
Because I'm just sitting here going, Robbie, 3 could not have taken from 5. That's not how numbers work.
That's why they're calling Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta for the remake.
Yeah, see, I mean, when they put a significant name change on there, and I just didn't know the tagline on the Persona one, so I didn't know if it was more of a port than a remake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
remake
remake.
all the way.
And that's another one I hope makes it on Switch 2 as launch title. Please.
I think it would be a really nice thing to play on a handheld as well.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have to go to the Switch 2 as a launch title if the Switch 2 is backwards compatible.
It's not. No, it doesn't
It's
run
not
on
on
Switch at all.
Switch. Nope. Not on
Oh,
Switch.
it's not there yet. My bad. Because
Nope.
aren't some of the games coming to Switch or announced? Or
Persona 5 Royal is on Switch.
I thought
And
they
that's the
announced 3 and 4
only
as well.
that's the only modern one. There's Persona 4 Golden, the Vita game or whatever, and then Persona 3 Portable is there. But
which
the
is
the
also-
newest game is Royal, Persona 5 Royal. I don't think 3 is coming.
Got it.
Or Metaphor. I think they're probably waiting for Switch 2. I don't think they want to deal with the low end hardware anymore.
Got it.
So, let's move to our favorite games new to us this year. And there was a lot for me this year, I must say. I just want to kick it off. We talked about the last episode, Metal Gear Solid series. Is one I mentioned again. That's probably my favorite thing I did this entire year of playing through 1, 2, 3, 4, and Peace Walker. You know, I'm currently playing through 5 very slowly though, because I got distracted with other things. But what a series, man! This is one of the best, and I understand why it's one of the best. The gameplay, really, really phenomenal, and then bring the cinematic storytelling and the great voice acting and the bonkers anime as hell storyline. So good. I love the series. And I'm now a huge fan of Kojima. I played Death Stranding a couple years ago, and it's like, this guy's got some interesting ideas, and now I understand where he came from with this stuff. Can't wait for Delta to come out this upcoming year, as well as Death Stranding 2. It's 2 Kojima type things coming out next year. So I'm very excited for that stuff. Yeah.
I wish I could be excited with you, Tim. I played Metal Gear Solid 1 back in the day. You know, a friend and I tandem played it, just, hanging out. And I did it just because I was tandem playing with a friend. But I'm kind of one of those people who thinks that I can appreciate what Kojima does, but it is not for me.
I'd be curious if the later games would jive more. The first game's gameplay is probably the roughest as far as modern sensibilities.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. And the first games had some just those amazing moments, those water cooler moments. I mean, whether you've played the games or not, everybody knows about Psycho Mantis at this point.
Mhm.
I get Kojima, and Kojima kind of is also kind of like Rockstar for me in that I love the technical wizardry that goes on with Grand Theft Auto games. They're just not
Yeah.
for me. Kojima makes some just a borderline cinematic
What about
master.
Red Dead Redemption 2? Did you play that?
I don't
Oh,
do
man.
cowboys.
Oh, Jason. This pains
Yeah.
me here.
No, they look great, and I'm excited for the people that were excited for the games because again, I give Rockstar their credit. They do some technical wizardry.
Yes, they do.
They deserve the sales they get. It's just not going to be for me.
But yeah, the Metal Gear Solid story is just bonkers. Like as you
Yes.
play through these sequentially, like it just gets more wild and wild. It's like I'm here for this wild ass story. It's yeah, it goes places that
It
I did
actually
not
kind of
expect to see.
it vaguely reminds me of how wild 90s comic book storylines get with clones and everything like that. It
Yeah,
just yeah, Metal Gear Solid again, it goes places.
it certainly does. And yeah, Robbie, you've played these? Yes or no? I forget.
I've played 1 and 4, and I've watched somebody play 3. I hear amazing things about 2. I'd like to redo
Two's
them
my
all
favorite.
sometime.
2 is my favorite. Yeah.
I'm gonna probably do the remake of 3. I think that would be fun since I've
Yeah.
actually never held the controller before. Yeah, I like the stories of them all. I think though, like for my tastes, playing 4, like it was just the cutscenes and stuff is just a little too gratuitous. Like it's just some of the weird
there were
quirks.
some long cutscenes with that one.
Yeah, I just think he goes over the edge sometimes. I was thinking, I mean, 5 has been really sold to me, but I hear that you have to watch like an hour-long plus cutscene before you even control the character. And I'm like, all right.
It's not quite that bad.
It's not that long. 4
Is
was
it
the
not
worst
that
of
long?
cutscenes. No, it's not.
Yeah, no, I said I haven't played much, but I did try and dip my toe back in for 5 on the Xbox One. And yes, it definitely is front end heavy with some cinematics there, but it's not an hour, and it's some of it's interactive and everything. That yeah,
Okay, good to know because it's
Yeah.
on my long list.
Yeah. Very cool. But I love 2. 2, especially today, is just bonkers playing through that one. Just like he was a fortune teller with the future, knowing where things were headed.
yeah, he does still maintain his relevance and everything, and I get that. It just is not for me.
Yeah. So, Robbie, tell me about Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, that game was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, guys, so we've worked into our favorite games of 2024 here
Mm-hmm.
that were new to us. Did you actually say that out loud? Sorry if I'm reiterating.
Yes, I
that.
did.
Can
Yeah.
you- okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so my other ones on this list here, we've already kind of talked about earlier. Dark Souls. The Souls and the Persona series were a pretty big series for me to jump into this past year, and I'm glad I
It's a
got
lot
to
of
play
gameplay.
so much
Yeah.
of the stuff in those games. Baldur's Gate 3 is kind of the outlier in terms of substantial, lengthy role playing, and yeah, I mean, it was just getting so much hype all last year. And
What do you mean it was
finally-
what do you mean it was the outlier? Because I thought it was a pretty. Because you made it sound like it's not a very meaty, beefy game. There, I thought.
No,
Baldur's Gate
I'm
3
sorry, in the sense that, like, I mean, I really played so many Souls games and Persona games
Oh.
this year. They've made up a huge chunk of my gaming. So
Yeah.
just for me,
just to
it
have
was
been a standalone.
yeah, it was like the biggest time commitment that I did that was outside of either of those two series. And I probably spent more time playing Baldur's Gate than any other game all year. I mean, it was like I did like one run through the game. It was probably 120 hours.
It's a huge game, right? Yeah.
Well,
It's
Robbie,
really big.
Have I got good news for you? Mods are being supported on Baldur's Gate 3 for the console.
That's
And
I
they
heard
have-
that. Yeah,
How?
amazing.
It's limited, not all of the mods, but I can tell you for a fact that, for example, because for anybody that doesn't know, Baldur's Gate 3 is based off of the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition
Mhm.
system of rules. And as somebody who plays Dungeons and Dragons, the CRPG or ARPG or any video game RPG adaptation of a Dungeons and Dragons game, they traditionally don't have the full range of levels because it becomes really hard to have high level games with the rules balanced because Dungeons and Dragons gets really wild in what it can do, right? But and as such, what's the level cap in Baldur's Gate 3? Was it like level 12?
I think it's either 12 or 15, or maybe
Yeah.
is 15 as high as you can go in a real game.
No, highest you can go in 5th edition, if I remember correctly, is level 30. Or I might be
Maybe,
confusing 5th edition and 4th
okay.
edition. Either way, one of the expansion or one of the mods has unlocked further levels. So and
That's
more
awesome.
classes and more spells. So all the time you've already spent, they're giving you more.
That's so great. It's definitely a game I see myself coming back to. I would love to do it with other people because my wife was originally going to play it with me, and then I think once she realized there was like a learning curve, because she's played like in person Dungeons and Dragons before, and I think she just enjoyed watching it. But it is really, I mean, like there, I can't think of any other game that has quite the like cinematic and like quality and voice acting and all that stuff. That makes you feel like your decisions matter. You really get into the role when you play it. And I think they offer just enough freedom of like what they've opened up that is possible to say and do and interact with in the map that it's just enough to like create perception of like identity. Like you're like, I am this character, I can do what I want in this world. I really
kind
think
of like you're navigating through this world, answering dialogue things, and based on those responses you're gonna have to fight somebody or you'll get along peacefully. And
yeah, I mean,
what's the gameplay loop here?
There's battle, but it's really, they've done a nice job making the lines very blurred. And I guess it would be a little hard to explain. Have you played Dungeons and Dragons before?
No.
I mean, you're a game of Dungeons and Dragons, I think, just because you're interacting with other people. The part of the game that's like the creative part in the getting into your role part, and then the part of the game which is dungeon crawling and like fighting stuff and rolling dice. That feeling is like, if you're playing with a good dungeon master, that all is like that difference between those two ideas is kind of obscured. And I feel like the game does a really good job with that too, by making like dice rolling to do things like investigate a room don't feel like a pain when you're in person, because it's fun and you're like thinking of what you want to do on the fly. But if I had to like roll every time in a video game for every little thing I did, it would be a real pain. And so like when you're walking around the map, you'll constantly just be seeing on screen that dice rolls are happening, and you'll be seeing like you'll be walking through a muddy area of the game, and sometimes you'll get stuck in the mud and you like move slower, and you'll see that you like in an automatic way the game has basically like rolled a lower number for you.
That's
and
cool.
then the actual combat, you're actually like doing spells, and it's like tactical. You've got like a grid sort of. They also obscure the grid, so you feel very free in where you move your character. But I'm sure there's a grid under there. Your class plays a huge part in your. So I was a Dragonborn druid, so I was very spell oriented. And druids spell casting in Dungeons and Dragons is usually pretty weak early game, and then very, very strong late game. So I had a good time like just like blowing up everything with fire the whole late game.
Yeah.
And
Well, you put a pause in saying that when you said it's usually very, very weak. That pause almost had me coming at you with hands. Don't you say bad things about spellcasting.
I'm like I do a lot of Dragonborn druid stuff when I play, but I'm trying to branch out a little bit. I think so. I actually it's funny. I was like playing a one-off recently with some people, and I was like gonna do a bard just because why not. And I actually like booted up a new Baldur's Gate campaign because a lot of the same math and rules under the hood of the video game that playing in person has. So like it was kind of fun to like get a feel for the spells rather than like having reading homework. Just like sort of play the game a little bit and see like experiment with things. So it's very cool. It's very different. It's very immersive. I think I would have really had a hard time if I had never played Dungeons and Dragons before, but I don't know. I mean, you play a lot of games. I think, with the internet on your side, you can get through it. But yeah, it's a very narrative game. The characters and voice acting is always the thing for me that like will make or break a story-driven game, and I think they did that right.
Nice.
Yeah, they all sound the same in subtitles, by the way.
Oh, jeez.
No, actually, Tim, because you were asking what the gameplay is like. Another example, though, is because you mentioned dialogue. You'll get dialogue options that are only available if, like, you have a character with like intimidate or some skill that would be useful in the situation for that character and the one you're talking to. I mean, it is the closest we have gotten to tabletop gaming experience in a video game, because anybody who hasn't played tabletop Dungeons and Dragons, or generally any truly nerdy tabletop game, the options are so much more open in a tabletop game, and being able to mimic that feel into a video game is just an achievement.
Nice.
Yeah, like you might, if you're a spellcaster, you might fight more often, which is what I chose to do. Also, like leveling up, fight. You got to fight to level up. But you could, if you're like a bard, a character or a class that's like very high in charisma, you can be like talking yourself out of situations and progressing the game that way because you're rolling higher in the dialogue options that require charisma. So,
Yeah.
a small friend there.
My cat just showed up for dinner.
Awesome.
So you did, you did actually beat Baldur's Gate.
Oh yeah, I did.
Are you a guy? Because I keep mentioning for me, do you generally beat all the games, or do you drop many games?
I'm trying to not in this point in my life, so I don't drop things as much as I used to.
Well, yes.
So Jason, go ahead, sir.
Well, I was going to finalize. You mentioned having somebody to play with. What's funny is I'm doing all this talking about it, but it's on my list to play because my brother bought it digitally, and we do the console sharing thing. I haven't gotten to it though because I did want to tandem play with my younger daughter, but my younger daughter is currently in that I'd rather be doing things with her boyfriend phase, so don't have as much hang out and play video game time. I mean, we put more than a few hours in Terraria together, but after that time came, she currently is more occupied outside the house. So I'm trying to wait to save that to play with her.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
It's what it is, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about Ghost Signal, Jason.
First of all, because I didn't put it in the notes, but for anybody who doesn't know, Ghost Signal is PSVR 2. I don't know if it's available on other platforms. The full
I did not
name
realize
is,
this was a VR game. Yeah.
yes. It's actually called, I think, like Ghost Signal, a Stellaris Tale or Stellaris Tale. It's something like that. Everybody just calls it Ghost Signal. But it is a VR roguelike game in which it is really, it's hard for me to even describe the controls, but it's you aren't actually flying your ship, so it's not like No Man's Sky flying, but it's like you can live grab and drop 3D waypoints that your ship is flying in between, and while it's flying you can use your weapons for firing around, doing strafing runs, and you can target other things. But it's roguelike because you're trying to get as far as you can and then you die, and there's a video game conceit for stuck in some sort of time loop and you're trying to figure out how to get away from it and everything. But it is just it's so easy to get lost in rounds on this because each map, if you've played say Slay the Spire or any number of other roguelites, there'll be divergent paths, and they'll come back where you'll get to choice of go to a shop where you might be able to repair your ship, or go to an unknown entity that could be a creature lost in space that when you rescue it, it gives you a free power-up. Makes lots of decisions like that. And it is a phenomenal little game. And I had to put it on there after like the third or fourth time I went in for a run and came up for air like an hour later on the same run. And it's so good. It's peaceful too. Playing just in this space. Space is calm. Really great. And to be a PSVR 2 game that I was able to spend my amount of time with that I did is just another phenomenal recommendation.
Nice. Yeah, it's on sale right now for $8.99, down from $20. And if you have PlayStation Plus Premium, there's a 30-minute full game trial, which I find that's just hilarious. Most of the trials are like 2 hours, but this one's like 30 minutes.
But here's the deal.
Or there's a free demo as well. I'm not sure what the demo entails, but
you play I don't know what the demo entails. Even a 30-minute free game trial, you're going to get a feel for the game, and you're going to know if it's free or not. And I highly, if it's for you, believe me, it'll click quickly, and you're going to get lost really, really quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I said, it's got some roguelite elements, and roguelite has become one of those genres that's just bread and butter for me.
Yeah. So, in order to play the Metal Gear Solid series, I needed my PlayStation 3 hooked up to my gaming setup down here. So I got that hooked up, and that's how I played Peace Walker majorly on PS3, along with Vita, but a lot of time on PS3. And of course, Metal Gear Solid 4 was on PS3. But I say this because Resistance 1 and 2 for PlayStation 3, I played for the very first time this year. And wow, what an incredible series this is. I have 3 sitting on standby, ready to play at some point as well. But 1 and 2 kind of was one storyline, and then 3 is a separate character, I believe. But what a hell of a time. The guns were so inventive and fun to play with. The story was just wild. This is an alien invasion kind of story, and being infected by these alien things and becoming the aliens in some way. Like, there's just wild ideas here. Super fun battles, and just a hell of a time. Resistance trilogy, highly recommended. They're available with PS5 premium streaming from the cloud. If you don't have a PS3, they're all there now. So that's one way to play these if you don't have a PS3 hooked up still. But highly recommended Resistance. Have you guys played these games?
Nope. Think you're alone on this one, Tim. Yeah.
Nope. Okay, they're great. Yeah. I
Aren't
would highly recommend them. Yeah.
They're shooters though, right?
They're shooters, yeah. I like kind of I'd say it's like they're not Halo games, but like it's kind of like you're using alien guns, and like it's good storyline, but yeah, they are shooters. Probably about 8 to 10 hours complete each of them, maybe a little bit longer depending.
Yeah, honestly,
they're fun. Yeah,
shooter games are barely a step behind sports games for me, in that it's pretty rare that I find one that I really want to play, less yet spend any real time in. And Resistance in the PlayStation 3 era was definitely not a shooter time for me.
Okay, they're hell of a good time. I'd say. But yeah, I'm trying to like make my way through PlayStation 3 games that are locked on that hardware that I just missed out on. Killzone's another series I want to dive into at some point. Puppeteer. There's like some other random PS3 games I just want to get through at some point. Grand Theft Auto, I'm gonna eventually play on PS3 because GTA 4 is locked to 360 or PS3. I believe.
Really?
It might be on Steam Deck, but yeah.
That
there is no version of. It's so weird. GTA 4. There wasn't never a port for the modern version of consoles. Like, it's so weird to me that it's not happened. So, because a part of my journey this 2025 is I want to play through. I'm playing through GTA 3 now, but I want to play through that whole trilogy that came out, and then 4 and 5 to be ready for 6. Yeah.
Are you going to play any of the spin-offs or offshoots like Vice City or Chinatown or?
Only the ones that are part of that trilogy, which I believe. So it's 3 plus. It's also. It's also, as I look.
Probably Vice City.
It's
probably Vice City and Liberty City. Is it Liberty City?
Vice City. Yep, Vice City's one of them.
I hear great stuff about that one.
Or is it San Andreas is the other one?
I mean, no, that's the one I hear great stuff about, actually.
All...
See, and this is where I get to sound like such a hipster. I liked Grand Theft Auto before it was 3D. Like Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2,
man,
which were
hipster.
I know. Even though I'm not, but yeah,
San Andreas and Vice City are the other two.
There you go.
Collection. So I'll be playing those as well as 4 and 5 in preparation for 6 when that comes out. But really been enjoying Resistance. I want to play Resistance 3, which I hear is the best of the bunch. But I grew very attached to the characters in this game and really love them. So, yeah. And boy, is it weird playing PlayStation 3. It's a very quirky machine. It has that OS is just wild. All sorts of things it can do.
Actually, I like the PS3 OS and the look. And
it's fun to go back to. Like, it's quirky and fun in cool ways. Yeah.
But
And it's
speaking
so
of
much
PS,
fun transferring my save from the Vita to the PS3 back and forth. I did that a couple times, just for Peace Walker. Yeah.
it is funny that the PS Vita has basically lived for 3 generations of PlayStation console at this point. Um, and that also having been said, though, didn't you just buy a new PS3?
Yeah, I've got
Is it ha- is
I've
it
I've
hacked?
got a I've got a restored PS3 OG launch model that has full hardware backwards compatibility with PlayStation 1 and 2 games. And it is a beautiful old fat one, nice and shiny. It's got all the ports. It's got the SD card, the express card slots. I've booted a PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 game just to check it out, and it's pretty cool. It all
Um,
works.
Again, is it running official firmware, or have you hacked it and put custom firmware on it?
No, just official stuff.
Oh, I will tell you,
I know
PlayStation
you could load it up with stuff and hack it and stuff, but I've not done that.
highly recommend. That got me through a deployment to Iraq. A hacked
Mm.
PS3 with a hard
Yeah.
drive full of ripped games.
Maybe one day. I don't want to screw up my system though, too. Yeah. Anyways, and then Jason, Shin Megami Tensei 5, right?
Yeah, this is where I say, Robbie, I hate you.
This is on my
Yeah,
this is my next Switch game, I think. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it.
yeah. So offline, we were in our group chat talking about, the various games, and Robbie was talking about Persona, and I mentioned how, it's just been a hole in my in my JRPG experience, and then Shin Megami Tensei 5 came up, and that's where I also had to admit to Robbie my other problem of being a collector who buys video games and then doesn't play them. Which is where I went to my drawer and found not only did I have Shin Megami Tensei 5, I have the Steelbook edition of the game. So I decided to go ahead and load that in and play it. I'm getting to it before Robbie does. And wow, I really should have started this sooner. It's already addictive. I'm loving the catching of demons and the fusing of them. It is making me almost wish I had a strategy guide, but I generally try to play games. I try to raw dog games. I don't like looking up guides and helpers and hints and stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying it, but like I've probably got almost a dozen hours, and I'm still in the first real dungeon / section of the game, just trying to find or not find, learn all of the things I can find and how to use them, the demon fusing, and I'm trying to catch extra demons so I can fuse other things that, I got to catch them all type of thing. It just, and speaking of catching, I'm using that word, but I love how you get demons to join your party by just talking to them. And ultimately, it doesn't take a mechanic or a resource unless they ask for something, because you talk to the demons and they negotiate. And sometimes they want to just hit you and take your hit points or your mana points, or sometimes they want you to pay them. And it's witty, it's fun. I'm loving this grind. I really am, and I'm really upset at you for doing this to me, Robbie.
I'm excited to hear it. I mean, it sounds like actually, if you like all that stuff, you probably would like Persona 5. Just first of all, putting that out there. Unless, like me, the chatty high school dialogue is a turnoff. But this is sounded so much like that experience, but just maybe minus some of the social stuff. Is there like time management in it at all?
Again, I haven't. I have a problem with how I progress. I like to grind. I haven't gotten far enough that I can speak to that yet, I think, because I am aware of the time management stuff that you mentioned in Persona, and I essentially don't know if I'm going to at some point exit this dungeon and go back to something else that might have some time management. The storyline so far, it seems like there's some sort of time jump, possible alternate reality that's involved with this dungeon. Though I don't know if it's going to stay that way and I'm going to stay time displaced, or if it's going to be I'm going to get out of the dungeon and find out that I was seeing the future. Because video games are going to video game. And so I really
All
don't
right, you'll
know
have to
yet.
keep me posted. I'm
Yeah.
happy to be spoiled on this game because I hear it doesn't really have much of a narrative to it. It's sort of
Actually,
the
that
plot is fairly abstract, is what I'm saying.
it kind of sounds like Pokemon, which is one of my other favorite grind games because I love Pokemon. But let's be honest, the plot in Pokemon doesn't matter. It's just about catching the Pokemons. So yeah, no, I will once I get a little bit further, because again, I've got almost a dozen hours. I just haven't left that dungeon yet. But once I do, I will definitely let you know.
Nice.
Just trying to
Fine,
find
what you
my
looking?
charging. I was trying to find that charging cable for my 3DS because I think I have this game on 3DS, but I'm not sure.
Shin Megami Tensei 5?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I know they released, what was it? Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor Overclocked was, I think, a 3DS launch game. I don't know if they released any of the others on 3DS. And if so, I might have to look through my 3DS game collection to see if I own it there too. Because again,
So
I
I
have
think
a
I bought.
problem.
I think I bought this on 3DS at like it was like $70 too. And I don't think I ever
Jeez.
played it. I
I'm
started
curious.
it, and I never played. It might have been 4, maybe. That does that sound right?
I don't know. I'd be curious to know because again, it's a series that I bought and hadn't really played, but I personally loved the 3DS for various games because the glasses-free stereoscopic 3D. It's just I'm really sad Nintendo didn't find a way to keep that around,
It was so good. I love that.
and it only got better when they released the new 3DS, which had the
Yeah,
eye tracking for centering the yeah, phenomenal.
yeah.
What's the answer? What's the answer?
No. I'm not really sure quite yet.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember if that was on there. But it's good. It's worth it, and
Oh,
I will.
it's definitely 4. I'm looking at a game case of 4, and yeah, that's is what I bought back in the day.
Ah, gotcha.
Did you ever play 4?
No. Again, I don't even know why I have 5. I've never played the series, but I own the game because I think it's a JRPG that people talk about, and it looked pretty, and I got the
Sure.
steelbook on sale.
Nice. And then I do want to mention Lies of P. Oh boy, what a game! It's one of the games I spent the most time in this past year. I did platinum this game. This was such a fun ride. Pinocchio story for a Souls game. From Software got out frommed with this game. It was as good as a From Software game in my books. Robbie, if you have not played this one should be on your short list. So freaking fun. The story was comprehensible as well, which is always good,
Yeah.
I think. And the cliffhanger for where the next game goes was just one of those just perfect moments of the year. It's like, oh man, I can't wait. Can't wait. They're just having so much fun with fairy tales and all that good stuff in this game. Um, yeah, phenomenal. Felt great to play. The combat, the upgrade system, everything just felt right. Yeah, I love this game. It's great.
Does it play much with the actual story points or memorable moments in the actual Pinocchio story?
Yeah, it does. And it plays around with it as well, where it's not
Yeah.
totally straightforward, but it kind of yeah.
So which would you rather, Tim? A Liza P2 or a Dumbo-based Souls-like next?
Well, they do we spoil it? This is an old game. Do we spoil where they're hinting at this going?
You're welcome to. I haven't played it, so I
Robbie,
was
would you
making a joke.
care?
That's
I probably will not care now.
Okay. So, spoiler alert. Fast forward 30 seconds or a minute.
give or take.
This game ends with Dorothy's Ruby Slippers Wizard of Oz is coming next. They're going to the Yellow
Oh,
Brick Road in Oz, and it's going to be freaking awesome. And that's going to cross over with Pinocchio, perhaps, I would think. Yeah.
Tim,
It's,
I have never heard a
yeah.
spoiler that actually made me excited anywhere near as much as that one. The idea of
Yeah, right?
that is a direction I am totally going to support, and the
And
idea
right when Wicked's blowing up as well, which is just a perfect, like, cultural moment here,
that is going to be great.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'm
So
now going to
excited,
add
yeah.
Lies of P to my list. Is that on a
You
streaming
definitely need
service?
to. It's so good. So
I think
good.
it's on Xbox Game Pass right now. Actually,
It is.
have
It launched
access
as an
to it.
Xbox Game Pass game. That they funded it. They're actually in the end credits. Xbox is in it. Yeah, end credits of it. But yeah, and you can do your level up things if you get stuck somewhere. I didn't find it like yeah. It was. I found it was challenging, but not like crazy. Like because you could just grind it out.
It
Yeah.
wasn't uh, punishingly difficult. It was just challenging.
Yeah, it was challenging, and well, some boss fights were just crazy hard, where I would grind for a bit. I didn't think there were times where like, am I gonna finish this final boss? Because like, it was whipping my butt pretty hard. But I made it through. And then honorable mentions. Both these came out earlier. Final Fantasy 16, which I adore. This is my very first Final Fantasy game I've ever played in my entire life. Very, very good. And then just a day before finishing this, Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Finally knocked that one off my list along with the DLC Integrate, or Intermission. I'm not sure what it's called exactly. Yuffie's Tale. Phenomenal game as well. And I went straight from that and the DLC and the Rebirth. So it feels like Rebirth is just a continuation and like the same game, just part two.
Well, there's a reason for that, Tim.
Yeah, they seem very related, remake, rebirth. I think we'll probably get Reunion as the third game, right? Yeah.
I don't know. I would be curious what their retitle will be because that's obviously
It'll
the
be
name
something
of
with
that.
re in it, I feel.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's also going to have the Final Fantasy VII in it too. I think that might have been the first clue that they were related. But yeah, which ones are available on premium streaming? Is it the remake integrate?
It's the remake and the DLC.
So remake with integrate, but
Yep.
not rebirth.
Not rebirth. No. That just came out this past year. That'd be crazy. Yeah.
And
Happy
it
Tim to
actually-
be synced up with you also on a game at this current time.
Yeah, we're both playing through this rebirth. Yeah. So I just started. I'm in chapter 1. It's gonna be my main flat game while I'm playing through. Behemoth is my other album mention. I just started this one up last night. I'm like an hour into it. Behemoth, incredible visuals, incredible gameplay so far. I haven't even reached the first Behemoth, and I'm having just a fun time this one. Yeah, so the Behemoth is basically Shadow of the Colossus in VR, almost, sort of.
And you played none of it pre-patch, right? Because
No, I played post-patch. I waited a long time because it's like it launched kind of rough, so I did wait. That's why I did Alien first, because Alien launched in a better state, and then Behemoth, they've patched it quite a bit, and it's now in a really good state. So yeah,
I almost wish you could have played it pre-patch just to give a good first-hand comparison. Pre-patch,
Yeah,
post-patch.
right.
But at least
know.
knowing that you've only played it post-patch, you're saying it is worth the dive in.
Yes, yeah, very much so. It's really beautiful, and yeah, and I'm so curious with PS5 Pro stuff. Like this has not been optimized for that. Curious with this stuff Sony is going to release next year for PS5 Pro for VR, how that will improve things. If they've said they're working on stuff for that, so we'll see. And then yeah, I guess that's everything.
Well, Jeff, I
To
want to jump off.
close, yeah,
Let me
go ahead.
jump off your honorable mentions there real quick. All these other series that you are playing through the full series, is it just that the number 16 is too big for you to go back and play the rest of Final Fantasy?
Yeah, that seems nuts and crazy and stupid.
Well, I can tell you, I would highly recommend picking up the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. I have that on Switch.
Yeah,
because
I've been waiting for a good sale on those. It hasn't dropped quite far enough for me quite yet.
it's worth it. Because I will
But
tell
I
you,
did pick up the original Final Fantasy VII on Switch for $6. So I'm gonna play that after I finish Rebirth. So that's my but yeah, and the other thing I'm kind of doing right now is Grand Theft Auto, as I talked about. So I'm going through those.
right.
But yeah, I can't imagine going through Final Fantasy 1 through 16. That's nuts. So many games. and they're long.
You could play the highlights though. I mean, what are the? I'm trying to think the ones that are 6, 7, 8. Actually, a lot of them are pretty highly. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all pretty highly regarded.
Yeah.
This is a physical copy dual twin pack of Final Fantasy 7 and 8 for Switch. Here is Final Fantasy 9 physical for Switch. Here is Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2 for Switch, and here is Final Fantasy 12 for Switch.
That's a lot of Final Fantasy right there. Yeah.
And I got you one better. I also have the Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition, where they took all the characters and replaced them with chibi sprites. And it was never released physically, but I have that digitally on the Switch because Final Fantasy is one of those series that I just have to support.
Now, do all these versions have an easy double XP mode kind of thing?
No, most of them do not.
Okay. That's unfortunate, you know.
Yeah, actually, most of
I think the remasters 1 through 6 have a nice way to blast through them if you want, right?
Yeah. Oh no. The Pixel remasters have several options for enhancing playthrough. But going back to that Pixel remaster, which I have somewhere else, as a bare minimum, you've got to play Final Fantasy VI. I mean, it is considered about 90% of Final Fantasy fans, their favorite game is either Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy VII. So it feels
is 4 not highly regarded? I thought 4 was a big one.
4 is regarded differently by fans of the series. Some of the class system stuff that it started introducing there, which really went off the rails, starting with 5, and they pulled it back for 6. But America, the other thing is like the numbering in America when they were first coming out wasn't the same. Final Fantasy VI originally launched in America as Final Fantasy 3, and then Final Fantasy 7 Final Fantasy 7 came out on PlayStation as Final Fantasy 7.
Right.
So because it was fun. Yeah. So a lot of people it changes. Some people haven't even played a lot of those other numbers.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
I just had to ask. With everything else you're playing, it just feels wrong. And
I just don't have time to go through the entire Final Fantasy series. That just seems like a wild idea to try to do.
I said I like JRPGs.
And it's a lot of grinding. I don't have time to grind that much.
The funny thing about me not finishing games these days is when I was younger and doing nothing but grinding in games, I played so many more games. Like I played Final Fantasy 7 and 8 through completion. I just ground through those. It's funny how much easier I could go through games.
Yeah. And I'm so much more willing to just mainline stuff, these days. But I'll do the platinums as well. I'll dive into a game deep and platinum them. It just depends,
You make no sense.
Well, it's the balance of I want to play a lot of different games and see the story all the way through because I'm enjoying the story, and then there's also the satisfaction of just completing every little last thing. But I want, it's a balance of doing both, because I want to, yeah. And I'm obviously not going to get the platinum in like Resistance 1 and 2, or 2. There's no trophies in Resistance 1 because it's a launch title. But obviously not going to be able to get online trophies for some of those PS3 games. And the trophies were much harder back in the PS3.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that even one of those games that you can get because it's got?
No, I think you can't because online. Yeah.
Yeah. See.
In Metal Gear Solid trophies, I'm not even going to attempt to do that. It's just not happening. Anyways, what we're looking forward to in 2025, just briefly, the things that were on my kind of upcoming list: Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, Xenoblade Chronicles X. I'm so excited for that to be coming out on Switch. Play that again. That's a very short game, I hear.
Just a couple minutes.
Yeah, a couple hundred hours. I'm so excited that for online to be active because when I played X, the servers were already offline, so I'm very excited to visit that. Yeah, it's very excited for that. And then Grand Theft Auto 6. I am excited for just the cultural phenomenon that will be. This is going to be a crazy time. And then Switch 2. I'm excited what Nintendo has. What are the launch games? What are we getting this year for Switch 2?
Do you think Grand Theft Auto 6 is actually coming out this year?
I don't think so.
I don't know. You know, they say it is, so choose to believe
I
until
okay.
otherwise.
Yeah,
no,
I have doubts.
I'm firmly on the press X to doubt page. Um,
Okay.
I know they want it to come out. I know that they are doing a lot of work, but I didn't Red Dead Redemption slide a couple of times, and I don't think this is going to be as big as Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't
Yeah,
think
we'll
Red Dead
see.
Redemption is going to be as big as this. So I again, I actually, and so far, to the best of my knowledge, they're not a company that has betrayed their customers by pushing something out sooner than they need to. I give Rockstar, like I said earlier, their credit where it's due. I really think they are going to take their time and release it, and I just don't see it coming out this year.
No, it's fair. Yeah.
My
So,
list is
Robbie,
more or
anything you're
less
looking forward to?
pretty. I'm pretty intrigued by a lot of these same games. I will say the new
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon game also has my
Oh yeah, the
interest.
ZA, Legend ZA,
I hate that. I have a feeling it's going to be called that, and I
ZA.
want to just
Because there's only gonna be one with the Legends games. There's not two games. I'm
right.
excited for
Which
Legend ZA.
I loved Pokemon Legends Arceus. That was
It was so good, and I'm so jazzed for this one because it takes place in the Pokemon X and Y world, which that was my very first Pokemon game I ever played my entire life. So I have strong nostalgia for that 3DS world. Yeah.
Tim, because of your huge gap in gaming, sometimes you talk like a 20-year-old gamer who's just new to gaming and they just played the younger stuff.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
It just makes me laugh because
I have played the original Pokemon games since diving into it, as you know.
I
And
remember.
I've transferred. I have a complete living Pokedex. I transferred all the way up from GBA games, DS games, all the way up to Switch. So I've
I
done.
rem-
I'm a Pokemon guy. You can't take that from me now.
okay, you may be a Pokemon guy, but I remember being in high school when Pokemon Red first came out. And I mean, I was old enough. I didn't still have a Game Boy. I had to save up to buy a new Game Boy. I bought a new Game Boy Pocket to then buy Pokemon Red. And I was smuggling my Game Boy into school every day and
Yeah,
hiding it in my pullover. So
our
I could sit there and play
our
with it.
Game Boy never could leave the van. It was a system that lived and could only live in the van for road trips. Yes. So
Yeah,
I
no,
missed out on the Pokemons. My first handheld system of my own was the 3DS that I bought for myself after I graduated from college. So I did not grow up with handheld gaming.
wow,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, kind of like Robbie. Pokemon ZA is something I'm going to be looking forward to. I'm going to just punch myself in the face and keep saying that until I get used to it, because I'm sure that's what everybody's going to call it. I'm looking forward to that. But another
On Switch too, maybe, right? That might actually run well.
yeah. Okay, everybody complained about Scarlet and Violet, excuse me, on Switch. And while I did have a little bit of pop in, I had no problems with that game running. I'm not trying to just be a defender or an apologist or
I
anything
mean,
like that.
it
It's one of those.
works, but
No,
it yeah.
I can't even, the tone of which you say it worked. No, it was a lot more than it worked. Other than some pop in, I had no problems running that game.
Really?
No,
Okay, because I had a lot of frame rate kind of like it was chugging for
nope,
me.
I didn't. My frame
Okay.
rate was never problematic. So, I enough people have said that I have to assume, your mileage may vary, and I'm not just being an apologist. I acknowledge that apparently it didn't
Yeah.
run well for people, but it did for me.
Okay.
And
It's
and
good.
I so I was happy for those. I'm not. I wasn't upset they didn't take, or that they were releasing so many of them. I do still appreciate them taking the year off just because of the hit to my wallet, because I also buy both versions of every generation.
That's insane.
I have a problem. Leave me alone.
Yeah, it's weird we didn't get a Pokemon game this year, did we?
Nope, they took the year off.
That's good. I'm curious what they did with an extra year.
That it looks like that's what Pokemon ZA is.
Yeah, it
But
might be a hell of a game. Hopefully it is. Yeah.
another random game, and this one's coming out on Switch, not Switch 2. Though it's two games that I'm excited for. The re-release / port of Suikoden 1 and 2, just because I missed them on PlayStation 1. but everybody just speaks so highly of them. I feel like I've got to backfill that in my JRPG catalog, and specifically, those games are the kind of games that they have a huge cast of characters that what characters are available and what you can and can't get, that it makes the different runs feel different. I really want to play through those games, so that's something I'm looking forward to this year. As for the Switch 2, any predictions on when we think it's going to be announced?
January or February, released April or May.
Ooh.
I think it's coming. I don't think it'll be announced and quickly released. Is my impression.
That's
That would be
interesting. I think March announced and then summer, but I don't know. I'm not like really reading anything to tell me one way or the other.
Yeah, you're just trying to speak from your gut, which is kind of what I'm doing. I'm hoping for a February announcement, and more like a May release as well. I can tell you, it has not gone well for video game companies in the past to do a short official announce to release.
Wasn't Switch pretty quick? August and then released in March, I think. So it wasn't like, it was quick, but not super quick.
Yes, that sounds about right. And actually, wasn't it released April? Was it March or April? I don't remember. But it was about 6 months. But anything less than that would be way too quick between announcement and launch, in my opinion, for a console. Because consoles, people need time to save up for and budget and everything like that. And while the three of us are clearly hardcore gamers and pay attention to the news, so we know when things are coming, most mom and pops aren't really paying attention to that. So when it comes time to buy something for their kids...
But I mean... So if you release it early in the year, then you can hopefully get supply back up for the holiday season when mom and pop will be buying it.
Oh yeah, I mean that for supply reasons, that's a great time to release. I'm just worried about the initial sales if they are too close between announcement and release.
It was released March 3rd, 2017.
There you go. My brain was thinking April 3rd for some reason, beginning of April, not beginning of March. But either way, I'm definitely excited. I can't wait.
The light model was September 2019. The OLED model was October 2021.
Wow, those were actually further apart than I thought they were. It felt like there was a new Switch model or a revision coming almost every year there, but clearly they weren't. Just time blowing by.
2 years, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I will say, as much
Donkey
as
Kong's coming pretty soon. Excited for that as well.
I wish I liked Donkey Kong. If I want a platformer, I'm going to play Mario. Thanks.
Oh.
I don't find the games fun. I feel like the people that enjoy them now, it is mostly due to nostalgia from their time playing on Super Nintendo. And like I said, I miss the Super Nintendo.
Tropical Freeze is the greatest platformer ever released by any.
I did have a good time with that game.
That is the best. Yeah, that's the best one.
I will take literally any of the new Super Mario Brothers games over that.
I do agree with that.
I just don't think you like a good challenge, I just don't think you like challenge.
Oh, no, I love the challenge. Like, Tim, have you beaten new Super Mario Brothers U, or its re-release on Switch, New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe?
I was all into U.
Including the very last level that requires you to beat every other level and star it, and I would you have to go through some... Yeah, so believe me, I put my work in on games.
But I was saying, Tropical Freeze is a level of platforming perfection. I had Dark Souls moments in Tropical Freeze, I will say. Of just I finally get it, and I'm screaming in joy, Whew,
yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
I'm glad Robbie agrees with me at least, because it's not that I hate them. The new Super Mario Brothers, the Super Mario is a better platformer, and considering it exists on the same platform by the same people, why am I going to buy any Donkey Kong over any Mario?
Because you don't have minecart levels in Mario. Man.
And that's just it. That's the nostalgia people play on. I look at those levels and I just go, it doesn't even look good. It doesn't even really look fun. It doesn't look compelling. It was great on the Super Nintendo because it really showed what the Super Nintendo can do differently, right? But it's just not that anymore.
Okay. Respectively disagree, but it's all right. Oh gosh. I just hope we get ARMS 2 on the Switch 2.
I would like to see ARMS exist outside of one platform, kind of like, Splatoon did manage to live on past the Wii U. I would like to see ARMS given a shot to try
Yeah,
again.
ARMS was not given the fair shake. That is one hell of a game,
It's fun. It's a fun one.
Yeah. You don't need to do the motion controls. They've got good joystick controls, But anyways. Anything else worth mentioning before we wrap it up?
No, I definitely think we were all over the board there.
Yeah, this was a little bit of a winding episode, and clocking at 2 hours and 40 minutes. I think it's time for us to get some sleep.
It's bedtime.
So-
Sure.
So, Robbie, where can folks find you on their webs?
What did I say last time? RobbieBurns.com. That's
Yeah.
my place. My place on the web.
That's your place. But you, Jason?
My place on the web is I'm really not on the web. Let's be honest. But my handle
That's
is
true.
Risen Devil. My handle is Risen Devil on any video game platform. If you see a Risen Devil, it's me. RISNDEVIL.
Very cool. And I'm at tchan at mastodon.world for Mastodon. That's my main social place these days. And you can listen to iPad Pros and Vision Pros for my other podcasts I do. And thanks for listening or watching. We'll be back next month for another episode of Press X to continue. Bye.
Later.